Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of Narnia franchise. I know what
Theo,
you're thinking, but Tio, you weren't in the first movie. What the fuck are you doing here, little sorry ass? Well,
Yes, Tail, what the fuck are you doing here? Nobody invited you.
The train.
I invited him.
well, you see,
The train
guys.
left
Who
without
told
him.
you could invite him?
Well, you see,
I
guys,
did.
this is a new movie with a new hot protagonist in town because there are a couple of reasons why I specifically decided to be here because I didn't particularly remember why I was in the first movie from the commentary, even if I saw it. But to put it very shortly, this is a franchise that I really, really don't like. Those who know me more
Why?
tend to know the fact that I normally a sucker for this kind of fantasy type of storytelling. But Clive Staple Lewis was essentially using this franchise to put essentially Christian propaganda in disguise with a very thin veil on top of it. And trust me, if you actually read the books, it becomes obnoxious really fast
personally, I like the
compared to Lord
books.
of the Rings. But this movie instead, Prince Caspian, based on the second book, technically third in the timeline, but second released, you know, is actually one that I actually saw in theaters, and I'm about to explain why. And is actually my most top favorite of the three. And it's most ironic because it deals with one trope that I absolutely despise, the Muggle power, but we'll get to in a second. But let me get quickly to the main point before we start, since it's a very long movie anyway. So why do I actually care more about this movie, particularly My Country Does It? Because they casted not one but two prominent Italian actors for the roles of the villains, and not just like throwaway henchmen, like say in the Asterix movies where they usually are, kind of like those cameos. No, we have Sergio Castellitto as the main villain, and Pier Francesco Favino as his second in command. The weird thing about it is that the villains they are portraying are supposed to be based on the Spanish civilization of the 16th century, so beats the shit out of me when they cast the Italian actors for that. But that was basically a marketing boost for my country. Anyway, more technical details, we can discuss it when the movie starts because it's long. So let's go right before the Disney main logos, even if you're on Disney Plus. So start in three, two, one. Click.
In
First
co-
of all,
Tail,
have any of you else also seen this in theaters?
no,
no,
I don't particularly care. I
I
don't
saw it on
Well,
DVD.
that's the thing. Compared to the first movie, not many people did.
When it comes to this series, I'm just indifferent. I don't really care for it either way. I'm just indifferent. It's there. It exists. I don't really feel about it in any particular way. It's there. It doesn't offend me, but at the same time,
Honestly, oh god.
it doesn't particularly interest me. It's just there.
I've seen
Personally,
it. Don't remember if it was in theaters. Don't remember the movie anyway.
Okay, so
Anyway,
once again, the
hold
film
on,
was
Dwibs.
directed by
hold on, Dwibs. Let
Andrew
me answer
Adamson.
to your question. Personally, I'm fine with the Chronicles of Narnia series. I definitely liked reading it as a kid, and honestly, the whole Christianity stuff flew over my head. Until eventually it was talked about in Sunday school, in which case, yeah, I totally got it, at least with Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Also, what a way to start a movie, with a birth.
Again, it's more the fact, Pedro, that compared to stuff like Lord of the Rings, where it's still relatively bearable, even when obvious symbolism, like say Gandalf, in here it hammers it into your fucking head.
Okay.
It becomes very distracting. But let me be on point. This is the kingdom or the civilization of Talmarines, I think it's the proper term. In the books, they were clearly more based on the Normans, the civilization that kind of rampaged a bit all over Europe, during the starting of a medieval age, and later on conquered stuff including the modern UK. And there's Pier Francesco Favino, and Sergio Castellitto. These two actors are actually pretty good in my country, mind you, and they play themselves. Favino is also very prominent in other languages. He's very good at knowing these other languages. So he acted as a coordinator with the other foreign actors, with the director Andrew Adamson. This is because again, this particular kingdom instead is portrayed like it's supposed to be the Spanish civilization of the 16th century. and for some reason they casted people from my country, actual Spain, and Mexico. Apparently, there's a famous Mexican actor here among the others. Damian Alcaraz, I think.
Dumbledore? What are you doing here?
That's our new protagonist, like master, Doctor something. I forgot
Actually,
the name.
Now that I
Sorry.
think better, he looks like Crispin from King's Quest V.
Alright,
Kind of.
so anyway, as I was saying earlier, film was once again directed by Andrew Adamson, and it was co-written by himself, Christopher Marcus, and Stephen McFeely, pre-Captain America.
So
Okay,
this is their career before that, huh?
Our dashing Prince Caspian, which is supposed to be, technically Hispanic, considering the civilization we're portraying here, is played by the very Caucasian Ben Barnes.
How nice.
This also becomes a bit, a bit iffy for something later on. But let me put it this way: this is actually a pretty faithful adaptation for the most part. It doesn't really have any major changes aside from how the Talmarine civilization actually looks, surprisingly enough. We will learn also the details on why Narnia is like this and what's going to happen later. But to go for the religious parallels that the franchise is known for, if the White Witch, the witch. Tilda Swinton's character, of the previous movie was supposed to be a stand-in for the devil. The Talmarines are clearly the forces of agnosticism and atheism, but more on that later.
Anyway, before we get really into the meat of that stuff, bit of a serious recap for you folks here and there. As you may know, The Chronicles of Narnia is written by C.S. Lewis. It was a big hit back in the day. However, those who started off reading the books at a certain point may have been confused with the fact that, wait a minute, the first movie was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but that can't be. Like, the first book is technically The Magician's Nephew. And you are right, while simultaneously being wrong here. See, the way these movies are apparently being released is similar to the production schedule here and there. Because, believe it or not, the first book that was actually given out was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And the second one was Prince Caspian. The third one was Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
So this was the original intended order from the author?
Well, okay. Here's the thing. Originally the author released the books as this. First came Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, then came Prince Caspian, then came Voyage of the Dawn Treader, then came The Silver Chair, then came The Horse and His Boy, then came The Magician's Nephew, and then came The Last Battle. Here was the thing, though. Chronologically, these books were kind of all over the place. So let me put it like this. For the most part, it was a linear timeline for the first 4 books. But then, starting with The Horse and His Boy, which technically takes place sorta in between the events of 2 and 4. Well, technically within 2, because for a moment of it, it's when the 4 protagonists are currently adults ruling over the land here and there.
Alright, Davis.
Warwick Davis is in this. But starting with The Horse and His Boy, that's when certain books started to, take place differently chronologically. Heck, you want to know what even made it more convincing? The second to last book, The Magician's Nephew, that's chronologically the first story.
Yeah.
So, see, I forget if it was C.S. Lewis himself or his estate that did it. Eventually, the books were properly renumbered.
I think it was the estate, similar to what the Tolkien family did after his death. Again, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were best buddies, so it doesn't surprise me that they had a similar way to, structure the way they wrote.
If it's any consolation, the 7th story stayed the last story for certain reasons, which I'll get into later.
Go ahead, Dave.
There's a bit of a release date discrepancy as well. This film came out in the States on May 16th, 2008.
Yeah.
It released in the UK on June 26th.
I think in my country it came out even later down the line. It was still a custom thing to do at that time. Thankfully nowadays we're more in time with cinema releases.
Yeah.
But,
and as for what its
no.
competition was,
bonk.
well, I mean, it came out like a week after Speed Racer,
Oof.
and about a week before Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Double oof.
I really have to wonder, like, maybe Kevin saw this movie and that's why maybe I should get these guys to write First Avenger.
Speaking of something similar to, tied to our dashing protagonist, in the book, Prince Caspian was supposed to be around 13 years old, while at this time, his actor was actually 26. I personally actually don't mind this age lift. It does have, it does come across as some plot points that are, a bit iffy later down the line, but I do believe it still works. Caspian is a prince that has essentially not been able to rule over his throne. A situation a bit similar to Evan in Kuni 2. It's a classic type of storytelling. The prince that has the vizier or uncle abusing the position of power.
Hamlet. It's the Hamlet storyline too.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, okay, so the thing that Caspian blew, which you may recall from the first movie, was the horn that one of the original 4 protagonists received. Blowing it would get them the help that they need.
You also recognize one of the dwarves as Peter Dinklage. We will see him more later. Okay, here's one thing that was in the book. A subplot where one of the Pansvies has to learn how to love, in a sense that she starts here by having these dorky McFace here trying to very awkwardly come on to her, and we'll see how that continues when she gets to Narnia.
The way you phrase that...
Oopsie!
Sorry, what were you going to say, Pedro?
The way you phrase that makes it seem kind of like, because basically there's a celebrity in my country who basically has this cycle of where she's constantly having a big, terrible breakup, only to go on vacation and come back refreshed and ready to love again. And it's this never-ending cycle.
Oh, of course.
Symbolism.
So, anyway, Pedro, what was it you were saying?
Actually, I'm done.
Also, Aslan.
I thought you were going to say something to me, Evans.
Yes, Jova?
But yeah, okay, so here's the overall order of the books as is, essentially. Book 2 is essentially the start. Book 4 is the continuation. Book 5 is technically what comes after. Book 6 then comes Book 3, then comes Book 1. Book 7 is still Book 7. That said, though, it's probably for the best you just read it in the numbered order nowadays. It was the best they could do to get things as chronological as possible. That said, if you're a fan of the 4 protagonists, then, well, get used to not seeing them as often in certain
Speaking
books.
of which, one thing that the book doesn't really do justice is telling how the 4 brothers, the 4 siblings, actually dealt with their return to the human world. If you remember, at the end of a previous movie, they had spent decades ruling Narnia, and then they instantly reverted back to their, childhood selves. And the book, when it comes to Prince Caspian, really doesn't tell anything about how we deal with potential traumas and consequences of that. Well, the movie at least tries to go a bit over that direction by saying that the experience kind of shocked them a bit, particularly the elder siblings.
I will say this, though. You may wonder, wasn't it kind of weird that the kids were A-okay with ruling over a land that, as far as they knew, they wouldn't be able to get back home from, essentially? Well, believe it or not, the ending of the series sort of has a reason for that, and that may be the most controversial thing about this whole series.
If you watch The Blue Zone Comes, we already technically spoiled that in one of Deji's videos.
That said, though, we will recap it here. Should we do it now, too, or shall we save it for a
the
bit
final
later?
Okay, I guess you can tell the others after you guys are done with Voyage of the Dawn Threader for the final twist.
Yeah, let's just do it in the fine.
Sure, we can say it for this movie, but still, for the final thoughts.
That's what I was gonna say, because this film series never got that far.
Well, okay, yeah, and now apparently Netflix has garnered the rights in 2018 to have another go at it. Like, I guess Disney are okay with that.
Again, this was the time where Disney was desperately trying to compete against Warner Bros. For doing something similar to Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. But this movie clearly showcased that they were trying too much and could not, put the foot. There is a good video on YouTube that I think it's called like The Rise and Fall of the Narnia movies, which I think explains in detail why applying this kind of formula to the Narnia books could not work the way Disney wanted.
Well, Jova, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Disney doesn't actually own the books, do they?
Okay. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Prince Caspian was such a failure that Chronicles of Narnia was one of the few things that Disney were willing to part with. So they gave the rights to it to 20th Century Fox. And, well, as you know how that story ended, well, now it's finally back with them. Here's the weird thing, though. See, now, apparently in 2018, this was before the Disney buyout in 2019, Netflix bought the rights to all 7 books, intending to make their own set of shows, which would be helmed by, and you may be a fan of this, Pedro, Coco co-writer Matthew Aldrich. Though now I wonder... Huh?
Cool.
Yeah. Though I wonder, where does that all stand now ever since Disney,
doesn't really want to touch this thing anymore anyway.
Despite the fact that they put them all on Disney Plus, but I mean, that's the thing. Disney bought 20th Century Fox, who now hold it. Like, I guess maybe Netflix owned the book rights so they can do it all, but it's weird.
Well, usually the way it would work, Job, is that they bought the rights to adapt the books. Disney's own movies are completely irrelevant to the situation.
Pretty much. It's similar to how, despite being involved with the new Amazon Prime series, Warner Bros. And New Line Cinema technically still have the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies of their own.
Let me put it this way, Jova. In the same way that Sullivan Entertainment for a long time has made various media adapted from Anne of Green Gables, that didn't stop Netflix from getting the rights to make Anne of an E. I mean, long as you get
look at that, guys. We're back. Sorry, go on, Pedro.
When you get the rights from the book owners to do your own adaptation, any other adaptations that have been made, that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant to whatever rights you need.
Well, on the subject of Voyage of the Dawn Treader, though, the guy who directed that one directed The World Is Not Enough, so I'm looking forward to the sheer excitement.
Okay. I have a bit of a confession. I watched the original movie, I watched this, but I'll admit, this movie kind of took the winds out of my sails so much that I just could not be bothered to watch Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And from what I've heard, I wasn't mentioning much with that. Like, heck, I mean, even the story I didn't care for as much in the book as much, but damn, from what it sounds like the movie managed to do a disservice to the original book.
Well, as for me, I watched the first movie on theaters just, to see if I could get into it. I thought the movie was just okay, and I just, it's okay, I guess. But then by the time Prince Caspian came about, I was all like, not interested, and I just kind of stopped watching altogether. I'm not really interested.
Here's the biggest contribution this movie has done. It shows that Disney could have done better with the Lion graphics in the Lion King 2019 movie.
But one immediate positive out of the way, which you noticed already, all roles that were also in the previous movie get reprised by all of their respective actors. So that's really neat. There hasn't been any recasting.
Good for them on that.
It's no, I can definitely. I mean, I actually remember the lion. Yeah, that's definitely how it should.
Although there's a bit of a trivia, but I will save it for later in regards to Aslan for my country's version.
So when it comes to Chronicles of Narnia, I've always seen it as, in a sense, sort of, literally a fusion between Lord of the Rings and Alice in Wonderland. It has the parallel world thing going for it with the high-scale fantasy elements of Lord of the Rings, essentially. For the most part, the books handled it, I'd say, relatively well. That said, there could be some bouts of stagnation in some of the books, which I will admit.
So, Dweebs, Since you seem to ask this question a bit when it comes to other actors, how do you like Sergio Castellitto and Pierfrancesco Favino's English?
It's fine from what I can hear.
Do you think it has too much of an accent?
No, I mean, it's a foreign land, so...
It does beg the
Yeah.
question, though. Couldn't you get any Spanish actors?
There
to
are
play this
some.
role?
It's just that it's inconsistent. Disney, it gives to me the vibe that Disney was like, just get these people, southern, western, Europe, and maybe
people from
Mexican.
Europe
That's the
land,
same
why
thing.
not?
No one will know the difference.
Yeah, here's the thing. No, that's the thing too. I could understand if they got famous American actors and asked
Oh, wait,
them to
wait,
try
wait,
to
wait,
do
wait. I
a...
love this. Very convenient. Okay, to be fair, these are all different lords from different lands, so I guess we can sort of get why they have slightly different accents to show off the different regions.
It's also a thing specific for the movie. Remember, in the original book, the Talmarine civilization was more depicted similar to the Normans. So someone at worst, sorry, not at worst, but if you wanted to stretch enough, they could have been a parallel to the Franks, as in French people.
So, guys, stop me if you heard this before. Prince Caspian's uncle is evil and wanted the throne for himself.
Again, Hamlet. I've seen Hamlet. I know how this goes.
Like, it's similar to how Tolkien took inspiration from stuff like Beowulf. It's pretty much clear that Lewis also got inspired by Shakespearean stories, which is fine by me.
One of these days I have to show you guys.
Okay, here we go. Now we have Peter Dinklage. Hello. But here's the kicker. Miraz here is a massive racist. And much like the rest of the Talmarine civilization, they hate all the magical creatures of Narnia, and they want to get rid of them.
Racism.
So only human beings can rule over Narnia. I keep saying it, but I really hate this kind of shit.
So
Humans are boring anyway.
It's like fun. What is your major malfunction?
What was his name? Dibs. No, Kenneth Branagh, that's it. One of these days I have to show you guys Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet film. That's such a fantastic movie.
Is that the one with Robin Williams in it?
Yes, well, there's a passing cameo in it, yes.
Well, okay. Technically he is in it, but like I thought you meant like
that's the thing, Drova. Hamlet is like a gajillion actors, some used for like 5 minutes tops.
Oh, I know. I've actually seen that adaptation. My school once showed it to me. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's Kenneth Branagh's best movie, if you ask me. Again, it's the definitive original Shakespeare masterpiece that inspired so many of these.
So, yes, our protagonists find themselves back in Narnia.
But something changed because the castle they used to rule is completely in ruins.
Which begs the question, Jova, how do you go from Hamlet to that other film that you know what I'm talking about, that we'll do soon?
Whoa, don't worry.
Well, not everyone bats 1,000.
True, but it's like, man. Okay, let me put it like this, Dubes. Artemis Fowl that's the movie, has been around long enough for some people to call it one of the worst movies, period. Not just one of the worst adaptations, one of the worst movies. And there's a lot to go for in that.
What about you, Shiroi? What is your history of this franchise?
Read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, saw the movie, saw this, that's it.
Okay, so
so you didn't read
very indifferent to this.
So we're the indifferent
and
here, basically.
Thanks.
Let me put it like this. I liked the series reading books of it as a kid, but I don't know if I would really still care for it as much. I maybe need to reread it.
Let me put it this way, Jova. There are way better alternatives thanks to just the variety of things that popped up.
Would you say
again? This quote of Terry Pratchett alone completely shits all over this franchise.
It's interesting because it seems like so many book authors were trying to make their own Harry Potter level success.
Well, you know what? I mean, okay, if I'm to be fair to C.S. Lewis, I do feel like the man genuinely did have passion as opposed to just trying to chase the trends of the time. Like, now you can definitely tell when an author is just trend chasing here, and Yeah, I mean, for as much as we can talk about whatever controversies or Christian parallels there
It's
were,
not even a
I do
controversy, Jova. It simply put, Lewis was an author that decided to inject his personal ideals, in what he wrote, which normally doesn't really have much of a problem. So, like I said, Tolkien himself tend to do that. It's just the way you do it, and
Oh.
I personally believe it didn't work. You personally believe it does.
Okay,
That's it.
okay. I should probably explain something. So now you may remember how I mentioned how technically what is now book 3, which back then was book 6 or 5, what was originally book. Let me check. Yeah. It was originally book 5, what is now known as book 3, sort of takes place slightly within book 2. Essentially, book 3 takes place during the point when these 4 were adults and were ruling the kingdom here and there, and has to do with, well, what else? A horse and his boy. I'll just point that out because for now we're talking about Prince Caspian, not that one. There's a lot of context to go in with those other stories here and there.
It's also a bit bizarre that Disney tried to adapt the movies, the stories in the orders they were released instead of the actual chronological one.
Like, okay, you know what? Like, for instance, you know that old guy, the old professor who owns the mansion in the in Lion, the Witch, and the
Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. That's the wizard's nephew himself.
Yeah. He's literally the child protagonist of the first. Well, again, what is now the first book. For convenience sake, when I refer to something, assume that I'm referring to it in the current chronology ordering.
Okay.
And again,
We've gone
the
forward
reason
a few thousand years, have we?
Disney also had the right idea on trying to adapt these movies as much as fast as they could because they did not want the actors to age too much.
Sure.
But it really just.
Question.
Oh yes, Pedro.
Okay, so if I understood correct, so the Lion and the Wardrobe and whatever, I forgot the title. The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe. That's it. That was the first book that was actually made, not necessarily released, made.
Yes.
Okay. Did the author actually intended for that to be the first one to be released? The author herself, not the publisher.
Himself.
Okay.
Sorry, not the publisher.
Yes. Yeah. As far as we know, he released it that way. That said, though,
in that case, I can understand the logic of Disney by wanting to correct the book publisher's mistakes.
Well, okay. To be fair, though, there's nothing to suggest that C.S. Lewis wouldn't have wanted the book numbering to have been rearranged because. When it comes to C.S. Lewis, the man was, the idea was with the later books that later sort of threw the chronology a bit out of whack, was to expand on more things, to expand the series, give it more stuff here and there. Like, he didn't have some high-tech vision about how, oh no, it needs to be released this way. No. It's literally a matter of circumstances. Like, it's kind of like, if George Lucas still considered the original trilogy of Star Wars to be episodes 1 through 3 instead of now being episodes 4 through 6, essentially.
Well, okay, to be fair, Jova, thanks to the Empire of Dreams documentary, we know that that was never the case anyway. He always intended those to be episodes 4, 5, and 6 from the beginning. It's just that episodes 1 through 3 were never made back then because the technology wasn't up to the snuff at the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's 4, 5, and 6, always.
Oh, exactly. My point of the comparison was the sense when it comes to C.S. Lewis, the way the books originally came out was just due to circumstance and how he originally had this story, but then thought, hey, I could maybe make a bit more, add on stuff like this. Sure. And it just so happened that the later books took in weird places on the chronology meter here. Like, there's, as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with them changing the book numbering. All it does, as far as I'm concerned, is just make things a lot easier to comprehend because.
So yeah, here's the big deal. While for the 4 siblings, not much time has passed. In Narnia, a flipping 1,000 and more years actually have passed.
Which means, all their friends from the original movie are dead.
Well, okay, that is implicit. But there's also the fact that, again, their castle is no more, and now there's this new hot civilization of humans wanting to destroy all the mythical creatures.
Fun fact,
So no, go on, Pedro. I'll mention later.
Fun fact: the Lucas's original idea was actually for 2 movies only. One covering all the prequels, one covering all of 4, 5, and 6. He meant for them to be the way they wrote them. He originally wrote them as big, huge, like 5-hour movies or something along those lines.
I mean, remember, the original concept for the original trilogy actually was supposed to be the same, which got turned into the comic book V Star Wars.
Well, there you go. You just heard Peter Dinklage say beards and bedsteads.
Mm-hmm. Remember, this was before Game of Thrones, so it was still relatively unknown.
Do we ever have a Bridget Terabithy moment in these movies where we have a Disney movie with a child saying "God damn it to hell"?
We might as well be, because again, Disney trying to make these adaptations technically a bit darker than the original. We see already people getting killed. Later on, we'll see a near on-screen decapitation, actually.
Okay. Sure.
Also, Talking Badger. Hello.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, Prince Caspian has kind of a bit more perspective in this than he did in the original book. If I recall correctly, in the book, he was this grand figure who was more so built up to. Like, technically, the characters didn't get to actually, and by extension, the readers did not get to meet him in the present tense until later, because there's actually a lot of story built up to, well, flashback stuff, which shows how he came into stuff here and there.
But to be fair, it is still relatively well developed. Caspian essentially is kind of a nerd in a sense that he grew up learning about the stories of the old kings, the 4 siblings, which will conveniently help meet when he will meet them later. But he's also technically, he is against the civilization principle in a sense that he doesn't really hate, the other races of Narnia. It's also particular considering how the actor described his role. Him decided how to portray the role as a younger Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride, and you can definitely see him trying to do that.
Okay.
So, Tio, Tio, you have never seen the original Chronicles of Narnia movie, have
Yes,
you?
I did, just not in theaters.
So,
I've seen
okay.
also Voyage of the Dawn Trader, again, just not in theaters.
So, ignoring how you feel about the book series, how do you feel about the movies?
Like I said, I enjoyed them strictly by the standard you mentioned. I did still enjoy them. Because, like I said, I'm normally a sucker for this kind of fantasy storytelling.
Me too, yeah.
This was also before the influx of anime isekais, so there is that too.
I will say this: I do have my issues with this movie, but I'll admit most of them come towards the end, with, well, again, a bit of plot contrivance, which which maybe you could argue was sort of a thing in the books, but I'd argue the books kind of did better. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, I'll wait until you tell me what specifically is.
Have we come across a talking squirrel in this film?
Not yet, and it's more a talking mouse that you have to referring to him.
Because there's a squirrel character in this film that's voiced by Harry Gregson Williams.
Okay. Maybe I don't know if it's intentional or not, but this particular office, combined with the way that he looks now without his robe, like this just feels like. Yeah, this just feels Dumbledore.
Jesus.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Sergio, we're not filming a police drama here. You can just, stay calm. For the record, yes, both Castellito and Pavino are mostly known for crime police dramas. This is completely out of their comfort zone, mind you. Apparently, for Castellito, we have a case similar to Raul Julia in the Street Fighter movies. His 4 children actually really enjoyed the first movie, so when the opportunity was presented to him, he immediately jumped onto the call.
Minus him dying.
And like I said, despite how I really don't like the motivations of the Talmarine, I really enjoyed seeing Italian actors in mainstream Hollywood media that are for these kind of movies. Because really, like I kept saying, my country's vision of movies is so sterile right now that seeing at least actors, in something like a fantasy like this is so refreshing.
And from what I recall, they definitely do turn in a good performance. Like
If you want another trivia, Favino was also a year after this, I think. No, actually 5 years after this, 5 or 6, in World War Z too. But yeah, they are actually good in performance, and they also obviously dubbed themselves for the Italian version.
As for my little jab about not many people saw this in the cinemas, I wasn't kidding.
oh
On a
yeah, why
budget
don't you
of
read off the
200 and-
budget?
On a budget of $225 million,
Yeah.
it only made $419.7 million. That
Well,
was not twice its budget.
It was one of the reasons why Disney
Yeah.
decided to just give up, because again, they saw that it was costing too much and it wasn't as profitable as they wanted.
Plus, Disney and Walden Media had a falling out over financing, so Walden Media just said, "Well, screw this," and went to
It is a bit
Fox.
of a shame because I really like the scope that we're trying to do, both with the
Yeah.
CGI and the practical effects. Like, look at the costumes being used.
Like-
They're trying their asses off to make these words believable, constructable instead of just throwing a couple of robes and calling it a day like fucking Aragon did.
So Tia, where do you?
And
where-
if you
Still,
oh,
I suffer without my stone.
Yes,
in
please.
case you- And if you liked Harry Gregson Williams' music in this movie and the previous one, I won't get too used to it because the next film was scored instead by David Arnold.
Oh well, okay. That's the Vaingdwibs. Even though technically they got back some of the actors for Dawn of the Voyage Treader, that movie feels okay. Again, I haven't seen it, but from all the trailer and footage that I have seen from that movie, it feels so disconnected from the first two.
That's
Right.
because it kinda is.
Yeah,
It's still
it was-
involved.
it was
That's
not
one of the
Disney.
major problems of the Narnia franchise as a whole. It's technically, despite having the books being connected, they're more like of an anthology that talks about where the land is the real protagonist and has people walking around it. Other than a few recurring characters, not much. Is dedicated onto it.
There is sort of a reason for that, but that again has to do with the ending of the series because, believe it or not, for as weird as some changes may be, as inane as some of the weird leaps in logic that go on in this world, there actually is one solidified reason that does explain everything. That said, depending on how well invested in the characters and world you are, it will either... Well, okay, I'll admit most people I've talked to were pissed off by that ending, but I'm sure it has some fans...
I just laughed at it, Jova, to be honest.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
me too.
I should have expected, considering the themes and the parallels, I really should have expected at that point.
Okay, but here's the weird thing...
And yeah, I can...
The weird thing, though, too, is like, when you think about it, though, why even bother having them leave in that go? And okay,
I don't know.
Okay, without spoiling the ending, I'll just say this. I get the feeling that Chronicles of Narnia was definitely something that C.S. Lewis at some point wrote on the fly. Now, granted, I do believe he may have at least had plans as early as, the sixth book, technically, which, again, that was the fourth book release, but whatever. I can believe that he at least had 2, 4, 5, and 6 planned from the get-go. That said, I'm really willing to believe that at the very latest, by book 3, which, again, was the 5th book release, so bear with me, by that point, I feel like he was just writing stuff up as he went along, and when he realized he needed to wrap a bow on the series... in came Book 7, The Last Battle, and oh boy, it is the last battle, alright. But
I'm just gonna say
Wow,
the
it's
villain of
just,
that is a monkey that's using a donkey skin. That
have a
says a
question.
lot.
Why do we
Yes,
why do we have a defenseless little girl traveling in this dangerous journey with us?
Wait.
Also,
It's not.
just,
First, she's not defenseless. Second, she was again along with the other siblings in the first movie, and you have to remember that memory-wise, she has all the experience of the decades she has been one of the rulers of Narnia.
Okay, is she a mage or something?
Well, Pedro, you were there for the commentary of the original.
Time, Joe, I don't remember.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, okay, look. Susan. No, wait, sorry.
The younger sibling, I forgot her name.
Well, okay, yeah. The youngest sibling, she did quite a lot in the first film. Especially with her knife, she healed
She's
a lot
mostly
of
a healer, if you need to know the way that if you're
That said, she was still capable of fighting with her knife as well.
Yes, Dibs.
I was saying, I'm looking at the compared to this film, both the running time and the budget for Voyage of the Dawn Treader are considerably less.
Different studio, makes sense.
Like Dawn Treader's not even 2 hours, and it had like $100 million less of a budget, and yet it made a bit less than this film. But
at that point, no one was caring anymore, Dibs.
Yeah,
but I'm guessing. Well, that was $450 million the box office. Although I'm guessing it wasn't as big a hit because it cost less.
Well, that's the thing, though. I feel even everything about the Dawn of the Voyage Treader. Sorry, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. That title.
The boat movie.
Everything about that movie felt so off, from the marketing to how it was presented.
Apparently, even the title, basing on your
Dibs, for some trivia, the Badger is voiced by Ken Stott, as in Balin from the Hobbit movies.
Beautiful.
All right.
Now, again, I don't hate this movie, but I do feel like it does tone down on some of the fantasy elements from the original movie. Now,
it's okay. The thing that baffles me the more is that as much as I don't like the Muggle power trope, I can understand that the Narnia stories arriving at this point eventually. But this was literally the second book made.
Honestly, to me.
Like, C.S. Lewis blew his load way too early for this kind of storytelling.
Honestly, to me, so far, this movie just comes across as a Hamlet in a fantasy setting with some other fantasy tropes thrown in for good measure.
Well, okay. To be fair, the main thing with Hamlet is just Uncle kills a guy's father and wants to become king himself. Like, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it's not that much like Hamlet. Well, okay, maybe it is like Hamlet if you consider the ending of the last battle, but again, that's like the last book in the series.
There's also something we will see later, which is also technically in the book. Sadly, Prince Caspian, while starting is a central role, it becomes kind of less and less important as the movie goes on, and it's a story that becomes important about the four siblings. Anyway, here is Rippy Chip, a talking swashbuckling mouse voiced by Eddie Izzard.
Let me guess, it's a favorite character.
Oh, it's one of them. It's really adorable. And the movie doesn't say it, but for a nice bit of trivia, the reason why is that, good with a sword and everything, and he has this kind of attitude, is because he's a descendant of the same mice that helped free Aslan from the sacrificial altar that he was sacrificed upon.
Pretty neat. Hey, I guess we can say this is a better movie for Eddie Izzard than The Avengers.
Yes,
1998 one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Pedro?
Well, Joba, that's why I said with a few extra fantasy tropes for good measure, because, correct me. So the core plot with Prince Caspian is that, he had a uncle that usurped him, and now he's had to escape, and now eventually has to fight against him and to take back his throne.
The only thing that they added...
That's literally Hamlet.
The only thing that's added on top of that is that said uncle is also, to put in simplistic term, moving war against the rest of the world. Which is admittedly something that the Hamlet doesn't happen because the core plot is for the heir to take back the throne.
Yeah, sure.
It has elements of Hamlet, but to be fair, I guess we might as well say that a lot of stories are essentially Hamlet if we're going to boil it down to that.
Okay, one thing I want to bring up, at least for my Disney Plus copy, the subtitles are terrible.
Okay,
Oh.
I haven't checked because the copies that we have are not. Apparently, at least for mine, did not have a good
By that I
subtitle either.
mean they have absolutely no context. They have absolutely no concept of how to properly capitalize words.
Oh, so they're one of those that like put
They have
capital letters
they
on
have
every
names
word.
of things in lowercase
Oh, great.
most of the time.
But yeah, okay. One issue I do have with this movie is that maybe it was their way of trying to make it more in tune with the audience, but the movie feels a bit aimless in comparison to the book. For a bit of time. It gets better later, but for this, it's mainly just our heroes walking around the
That
forest
face.
trying to find each other.
Yeah, speaking of that plot point, one major plot point is that for some reason, despite being essentially its protector, Aslan is kind of fucked off for a very long time now. And and now it seems that only the younger sibling is able to save him. Again, this is something that was also in the book.
This technically gets explained as well, especially by the last battle.
Since this film came out the same year as Taken, was Liam Neeson too busy or something?
They took Aslan's daughter.
But Tio, I really do wonder if Last Battle was mainly was also C.S. Lewis going, well, crap. In hindsight, maybe it is kind of weird that Aslan isn't around until the protagonist needs his help or something. I better try and explain that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Pedro.
I mean, at least it's not as dumb as in Highlander 2, where in order to resurrect Sean Connery, all he had to do is shout Ramirez.
Yes.
Oh God.
No, don't worry. It's just that the way Joel was phrasing that, like, it literally felt like he was saying that C.S. Lewis wrote Last Battle, the game.
Okay. Here's the thing. Here's how bizarre the rules of Narnia work. They want Prince Caspian to actually lead the fairy creatures against, and the animals, against the Talmarines. This is because. Again, the Narnians just want a human leader for them. This is something that they're actually accustomed to. Here's when it clashes with the setting, as Dominic Noble pointed out. Again, in the original, Prince Caspian is like 13 years old, and his civilization is more akin to, say, the Normans. In here, not only is a grown-ass adult, 26 technically, but the civilization resembles the conquistadors, and seeing the equivalent of the natives wanting essentially one of those people to actually rule them against the invaders can assume potential leaky situation. But I get the idea that it was just Disney not thinking too much about it and, just whoopsing for this bit.
Whoops.
Basically, this is Caspian pleading this case that, the Narnians don't just outright draw and quarter him right there and then.
Oh, let me see. There is one of the major actors that play the centaurs is credited. Let me see if I can find him.
Okay, movie. Let me know when you get somewhat exciting.
Damn.
I'm not. It's not like that for me. I mean, this movie doesn't do anything particularly noteworthy bad.
Oh, there's the squirrel waves.
Harry Gregson Williams, squirrel.
For the record, apparently over 100 actors auditioned for voicing Rippy Chip, and Izzard managed to convince the directors to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, like I mentioned, a bit of a change is like, well, instead of having a lot of this stuff be, shown in flashback, this is actually happening alongside the children showing up online.
Instead, in the book, you get essentially first being from the perspective of children, and then you get revealed, oh, this is how it happened.
I suppose this is kind of an improvement to that in that regard.
This is fine. Compared to this is kind of a reverse of the series of The Stand, the more recent one, 2020 2021, where they decided to adapt a more linear story in pieces, but it's a story for another time.
Now, one thing that is interesting is seeing how Narnia has changed over the years, and also seeing how certain sides that were working for the White Witch are now working for the good guys, and vice versa.
They really don't have a choice. Again, their species are being threatened to be extinct by the evil man.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The Talmarinians, I don't mind as a concept. What I do mind is this idea that, oh yeah, most humans totally wanted to kill everything. Like, really?
Again, continuing like I mentioned before, continuing the parallels that Lewis put, they are clear allegory to people who want religion to be exterminated from the world.
It's... I mean, I don't know if that was the direct parallel he was going for. Like you said, it could have been mainly more so the conquistadors and all that, but...
No, the conquistadors is something that the movie decided to pull. In the original novel, we were more akin to the Normans, which again, it's a common type of plot point. George R. Martin also did it for the Targaryens in A Song of Ice and Fire. No, like I mentioned before, as much as I don't like this, I could understand arriving it at some point, but instead, this was happened for the second story that was made. Sure, chronologically, is the fourth that happens, in the new order that is put. But it was the second that was written. It really feels as if Lewis wanted really to tell this kind of story and just could not wait.
This is another thing. Book 3, The Boy and His Horse, did do a better job helping to build up towards the conflicts going on in this later on. Which, again, mind you, Book 3 was one of the ones made, later on, so I can't help but wonder if it might have been better to have made movies just based off of the books in their current order, because as they are numbered now, it is much more towards the writer's convenience, I will say. Sorry, the reader's convenience, I would say. It fills you in on certain plot details here and there, helps set up certain stories better as well. The first one literally includes the creation of this land as well, and also sort of the origin of the White Witch.
Yeah, it's basically it's kind of like the Silmarillion in a way.
And you know what? I'm not going to lie. As far as I'd known for years on end, that was the official ordering, and it feels natural. Like, even when I found out, originally they were in this order and that's why the movies were released like this, I always thought that maybe it might have been better to have just done it as the movies are nowadays.
Yeah, that is what I believe should have been done anyway. But yes,
have I mentioned the Caspian thing and how it relates to me on commentary or not?
What
do you mean? Go ahead.
I don't even know what you're talking about, so go ahead.
Okay, interesting thing for me, locally at least, Caspian's is the former name of a pizza takeaway place.
Oh, right.
And to be honest, I'd much rather watch Chronicles of Narnia Prince takeaway delivery so far, because that would at least be more exciting.
I get the feeling you're bored by this movie.
Well, that actually leads into the point I was trying to make earlier. I don't know.
Nothing's happened yet.
Well, technically it has. It's just that, okay, let me put it this way. It's not that this movie does anything particularly noteworthily bad. Not really. It's just that it doesn't do anything necessarily particularly great either. It's just kind of much like I felt like about the first movie. This movie just kind of exists.
Okay.
That's a good segue because in terms of narrative, technically, this story structure, even in the book, was very similar to the one of the first of the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. The first half is used technically to set up characters, get into the world, get to know what's going on, and then the later half or later third is basically a gigantic fight scene.
I guess, now, to be fair, I'd argue The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe had better plot progression overall, because it had a beginning, middle, and end. Like, it had the slow build-up and setup to eventually all the characters crossing over into the wardrobe and whatnot. But first, it started off with Lily. Then Edmund came through, which, led to some tensions here and there when Edmund, who was sort of tricked by the White Witch into being her personal little B-word, was, Edmund was kind of a brat and all that and whatnot.
on the whimsy.
Then eventually they all went in, and okay, we explore more of the world here and there, but we slowly learn in the conflict with the White Witch, with the action ramping up, which admittedly the movie did sort of help, amp it up a bit, but all the same, it was easing us in and getting things more and more exciting, getting us pumped for the final battle. This movie and story by extension, on the other hand, let me put it like this. It doesn't feel like anything's really happening until the characters finally meet up with Prince Caspian, which takes a bit of a while. I mean,
this is also a bit of a problem because in the book, the group as a whole actually meets Aslan one time, and essentially, in order to give them back like knowledge and power, he kind of like does a bit of halitosis on them. He's like,
is this some sort of trap?
He breathes on
No.
them, I think.
Yeah, he breathes on them. It's just weird.
Well,
it's
that's
a good
his
thing
thing.
the movie did not adapt it.
Well, Tio, as the first movie showed, breathing on stuff and doing stuff, that's his thing, because as you'll recall in the first story, technically the second book, him breathing on people who were frozen by the White Witch cured them.
And yes, that's Liam Neeson back as Aslan. Okay, let me put this the trees here, why not? In Language and the Wardrobe for the Italian dub, for some moronic reason, which was a specific actor to voice Aslan, an actor called Kabir Bedi, which is a foreign title actor but also Italian. He was absolutely atrocious in the role. Like, not even comparable. So thankfully, for both these and Voyage of the Dawn trailer, they actually hired instead the voice actor who normally voices dubs over Liam Neeson when it comes to the movies where he appears.
Wait, hold on. Can I just say this? Hey, siblings, you're really doubting Lily again after that was a plot point in Lion Witch in the Wardrobe about how you douded her that there was a wardrobe, even though it turned out, she was actually telling the truth and right.
Skepticism.
Not just
Not only that, it's a magical world. Why would you doubt that she could have visions or dreams of Aslan?
Arbitrary skepticism. But
exactly,
that's also the thing. Of the four siblings, the one I relatively care only for this movie is Edmund, because he's the one that actually seems to have kind of a story arc going on. He wants to redeem from the things that he did to his siblings and the others in the previous story.
And good on him for that.
It's a clear case of lazy writing. You can't think of a good way to create conflict, so you have to go back on the character development from a previous.
Sadly,
movie.
this was also in the book, so this is also up to C.S. Lewis.
Well, then it sucks there too. Then.
Yeah.
Hey, and now our two protagonists meet head on.
My name is Prince Caspian. You did not kill my father, but still prepare to die.
Why are you trying to kill me then?
Wow.
He was about to smash his head with a rock. Just FYI.
You have a sharp object.
To give Peter credit, Peter don't play. He was the main king for a reason, dang it.
I was about to mention. How rude of you to interrupt him.
He asked me to tell him.
But yeah, the reason also why the four siblings have been sucked away into Narnia from the train station was because Prince Caspian used the magical horn to call for help.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that bit was funny.
Again, if you're the cool thing about this bad bit. Oh, here we go. See, now the movie tries. See, this sound familiar. The movie executives wanted to shorten in a love story between the older female sibling and Prince Caspian, which wasn't in the book.
Mentally,
it goes as much as you can expect.
She's technically thousands of years older than him.
We're still doing this in 2008.
Not even that, Dweebs. Even in 2013 and 14 with the Hobbit movies, Hollywood just doesn't fucking learn.
I mean,
I
what?
don't understand this idea of
Look.
trying to shove in romance
Where it
unnecessarily.
doesn't belong.
Not only that, because the ending of this movie is kind of gonna shoot the idea of having her fall in love with Prince Caspian dead.
And what was
so,
the
yeah.
point then?
Yeah, that's the question. What's the point?
Drama!
Pointless drama.
There's already enough drama in this movie. Like,
Sure, Roy, it turns out that having to save a species from extinction isn't enough drama.
Brilliant.
But okay, to be fair, now that the heroes are finally met, now things can finally get moving, really.
Yes, King Miraz, we can read.
The same kind of buffoonery decision that thought, you know what? Captain America punching Hitler, that's not really good enough of a backstory. Let's change that into a crappy Marine. That works. Like, seriously. Like, saving the kingdom is not enough for you? Like...
Remember, Pedro, Captain America was severely underestimated as a character, at least outside of the comics, until the MCU movies. Even side products that included that potentially could have included him.
Well, Teo, why do you think First Avenger is still my favorite movie of the MCU?
But yeah, here's also to mention, King Miraz is kind of addicted to even his subordinates, and you know usually what this kind of behavior leads to.
Killing his subordinates?
Well,
You'll
or the
see.
opposite, a dagger in your back, but not the time yet.
yet.
Again, to me, it feels so surreal to see this character in this kind of outfit or these roles.
Sorry, go ahead.
Basically, he's asking just how many of your men came with you. It's totally not a way so he can, kill free men so he can blame it on the Narnians. Nah, that's only something a mad king would do.
Huh.
He's the goddamn ringleader. Scapegoating.
Yeah, seriously, don't expect anything don't expect any redeemable qualities about Miraz. He's as as evil as you can get.
Which, you know what? I don't mind. A good old
No,
classic
me neither.
vile
Like,
villain.
it's
he definitely
also similar
plays
to
this
similar
well.
to similar to the White Witch from the previous movie. This franchise probably makes it work better with a villain that it doesn't have a tragic backstory, so misunderstood.
So, Tia, which villain do you prefer, the White Witch or King Miraz?
Okay, technically the White Witch. As much as it's cool for me to see Italian actors for this kind of role, me not liking the Muggle power trope takes precedence.
Oh,
when it comes
yeah.
to that.
And I'll admit, I do feel like the White Witch was a bit more compelling as a villain. That said,
Also,
Miraz...
I reevaluated Tilda Swinton so much over the years.
The later 2000s were an interesting period because after the first three movies, Pirates of the Caribbean wasn't making as much money as the first movie did. So Disney was trying to come up with some other big live-action franchise that they could use to compete, like Teo said, compete with
Remember,
Harry
Pedro,
Potter and stuff like that.
they did try it for a long time to compete with Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, but they just couldn't.
That's what I'm saying. And it was ironically in this very year where the MCU officially started, and there you go. There's your live-action franchise.
Okay,
Again,
Disney didn't own them yet.
This is also why I'm very interested to see if the rumors that Disney is actually making a live-action set of movies based on the Black Cauldron books actually will come through, because I really wonder what they can come up with, considering their past.
Well, they are making a live-action remake of the original film.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I just don't know if they're gonna commit completely to it or not.
And unlike almost all their other announced live-action remakes, there is a pretty good reason to remake the Black Cauldron. The first time they tried it sucked, so
you know what?
You just try again.
You know what else I'll say, honestly? Disney, you want to make some live-action remakes? How about remakes of stuff that, well, sadly didn't work out
Well, like-
well, but now probably
That's what it
would
is.
work now
Like
that
Vips
you're
just
big. Like,
exactly the thing, though.
mentioned, the
Like
Black
we-
Cauldron is a
Well-
perfect opportunity.
well,
We talked
okay, but
about
I was
Java,
also
that's
going to
what they do
say,
with pizza. Sorry.
how about Treasure Planet or Atlantis: The Lost Empire?
That's also the thing, Jova. Treasure Planet is technically not really a bad movie. It just happened to have poor circumstances of
It's
its
'cause-
release.
it's good. Yeah, but people watch Chamber of Secrets instead.
Well, that's
It's not
my
even
point,
just-
though, Emiko. Why not do something to give it another chance? And, well, since usually give it another chance means something like a live-action remake.
Knowing Disney, they'll probably put it up against the live-action adaptation of The Cursed Child or something.
Oh, God. Well, you know what? You know what,
that's what
Dwibs? You know what, Dwibs? That might be a good thing to bet against because most Harry Potter fans, from what I have seen and heard, do not like Cursed Child.
But that's the thing, Joe. That's exactly what I keep saying about the Pete's Dragon remake. The Pete's Dragon remake is the prototypical example of what those remakes should be about: taking a movie that was bad and making it better.
But anyway,
You know-
there you go. A mausoleum dedicated to the four sibling Aslan and the characters of yore. This essentially was kind of like a temple that was consecrated to that.
Oh no, we've been dead all along.
Well, technically you weren't dead, but you kind of just up and vanished that one day, so as far as the kingdom knew, you were dead.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Eh.
that's the plot twist.
And it was
Our
also the
main
place
characters-
where Aslan originally was sacrificed.
Our main
Yeah.
characters have been dead all this time. No wonder they look so disinterested to be there. They're dead.
Yeah,
I
imagine
bet
that.
that's what. I bet
Yes,
that's
you
what
are?
the ending was, wasn't it? Either that or it's all a dream.
Just wait for the
Oh.
Pampas here.
Don't you see, guys? The final plot twist is that this was all just a big stage achieved by technology. Clearly.
So what this takes place is
Narnia is actually an acronym for a
No,
modern
Dave,
day science experiment.
it's the hologram from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Exactly.
but,
Let's go full crossover.
Though-
No, it's just a D&D
though-
campaign.
Well, it's funny because being C.S. Lewis being an important British author, Doctor Who actually had a couple of episodes that kind of referenced his works.
hey, no
One of the Christmas special does reference Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
it's funny you mentioned Cursed Child, Dwibs, because, speaking of unneeded romance subplots, according to Cursed Child, Bellatrix and Voldemort went at it and had a daughter.
But yeah, now that's also the movie. By the way, the characters and the what remains of the other races of Narnia will have to mount a defense from this place against the Talmarines, and that's pretty much it. We're not going to move in terms of locations.
Jova, that's fanfic type of writing if I ever heard it.
What are you talking about? It totally makes sense that Voldemort and Bellatrix had some hot, passionate, loving sex and conceived
Again,
an
I
evil
don't want
daughter.
to have the mental image of Voldemort having sex. Thank you.
Well, thanks to J.K. Rowling, it's now canon. Oh, and Hermione
The
was
woman
also...
just go away. Like,
Also, another reason why I like Rippy Chip, he also has the best ideas. There you go. Glenstone the Centaur is played by Cornell John. Let me see what his filmography is.
Also, Shira, if she goes away, who will read her fanfics?
no one. That's the point.
No one, yeah.
Also,
We'll all just read My Immortal instead.
Oh, apparently it was
yes!
Apparently it was in Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Oof.
Wait, who was?
The actor that just said Cornell John.
Okay.
Huh. Wow. Thank you, Griffin.
Okay, this is something that wasn't in the book, but they actually added it for the movie. In the book, we actually consider briefly a raid onto the castle, the castle of the Talmarinians, but they discard the idea because they believe it might not work. In here, we're gonna have them learn that the hard way.
I'll admit, this scene I do feel is a relatively fine addition, especially given now it does add to Prince Caspian's own character arc.
It does remind me a bit. Whoop! It does remind me a bit of. Also, Edmund. It does remind me a bit of the infiltration that happens at the climax of Disney's Robin Hood. So there is that. And yes, Ed Woon accidentally brought with him a flashlight.
Which makes for good signaling. Okay, to give this movie credit also, I do like the score. That's one.
It's fine, nothing that I will harm, especially compared to the one of Lord of the Rings, but it does the job that it's supposed to do, so there is that.
The main theme is memorable, not much else is, but I do feel like it does its job properly.
Yeah, that's what Narnia actually stands for. National Artificial Reality and National Independent Archives.
Also, we'll give them credit. The mice aren't just comedic guys. Like, they can actually get
they're
stuff
not.
done.
Rippy Chip has been described by essentially a mouse version of the Puss in Boots from the classic fairy tale, mind you, not necessarily the Shrek version. And yeah, it does the job. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, if Netflix ever get that Narnia show off the ground, and considering major obsessions with Hollywood with certain trends, I wouldn't be surprised. How surprised would you be if Netflix make Narnia was actually an artificial reality, a plot twist?
I mean,
Not really.
that would be something that a modern remake would do, because here's the thing, like, this stuff technically starts before...
How about an isekai?
Like, okay, it starts before World War Flipping 2, and yeah, it technically is sort of an isekai.
Well, Jova, a film set during World War II once had a song from Nirvana in it.
Yeah, Minotaur trying to do a stealth mission.
And yeah, I know it was time traveling, but still.
I mean, that would not necessarily work with this unless, again, they were going for a more modern remake of stuff here and there. Let me just say this, Dweebs. You'll get it when me and Tio reveal to you the series
What
is...
was the twist?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there's a Shyamalan-esque twist.
What, all of this was a dream?
You'll see, or you'll hear in due time.
This really is an isekai, isn't it?
Because I mean, the series never gets that far, does it?
Well, okay, yeah, it never did get that far, but at the very least, it may give you some
shit,
sense
they have a cat.
Aww.
Go away.
No.
They got. So what? They're gonna try and behead the cat.
Okay, if he had the time, Rippy Chip will probably try to do that, but sadly the mission takes priority.
Sadly.
You know, I really should get better security for this cast.
You know what they say, Shira? All's fair in love and war, or something. I don't know.
The cat's just sleeping.
But you're right.
Seriously, this castle is so badly protected that if the wizard didn't warn Caspian, he probably would have gotten kidnapped the next day.
Yeah, actually, let me get. It's not a wizard. He's instead. Let me see if I can find the name of the actor.
Gandalf.
Yeah, Count Gandalf.
I thought you were going to say Dumbledore.
Dr. Cornelius, so there you go. It's like the mentor of Caspian. He's played by Vincent Grass.
I honestly feel like he looks more like Dumbledore. Maybe it's the red cloak he has, but...
Let me see if I can find some movies that he was, that you might recognize. He's mostly a French actor. It was for French fans. Go away. Yeah, we just wanted to just, tie him up. Surprise! Yeah, don't fuck with Rippy Chip. He's gonna fucking kill you.
That's the thing. Despite his sword being small, it's still a sword.
It's sharp, yeah. Ha ha ha. Mind you, this was 4 years before Disney bought Star Wars.
That's irony, folks.
But no, I actually can't find a major filmography, a major film that Vincent Grass was part of that you might know, mostly because he's a Belgian actor, so he worked mostly for Belgian and French movies.
Also, you're mice. Don't start making fun of people about height.
Yeah, that too. Again, also to add the more confusing thing about the Talmarine civilization, you hired a Belgian actor to be the mentor of Caspian. Again, it's so bizarre how Disney designed for the casting of the villains.
Morning.
Oh, so good to see you alive.
Yeah, Miraz doesn't give a shit.
He made sure to wake up his wife as well, just so she can see him murder him if need be.
Let me see. There you go. Queen, Truna, Prismia. There you go. Alicia Borrachero. I think she's actually Spanish. Let me see. Yes, so she's a Spanish actress.
You see, you and I, we are actually very different.
Oh no, she was in Terminator Dark Fate.
Oh god. Looks like someone's career went down the tubes.
Who's gonna put my bow and arrow towards?
Okay, I'll bet lines like that are.
Castellito is also good at comedy, so there is that too. Prepare to die?
You and I are not so different, Caspian. Wait, never mind that. Literally everything about us is different. I forgot what I said.
Actually, Pedro, that's exactly it. He said that you and I are not alike, actually, because he considers himself a much
Again,
more backbone.
I know
for better or worse, Miraz is also very textbook.
I was going along with the subversion. It's a shame, really, Caspian, because in another life, maybe we could have been friends.
Friends. Of course, secret passage. Edward, you're an idiot.
Well, I'll tell you, when you're a scheming villain, it always helps to have an easy escape route that you can use.
Definitely.
Also, I'd also hope that your enemies are morons.
Wow, that's
What is this? Witchcraft.
I know, but your own men are even more idiotic.
That's this, and there you go. We misinterpreted as the signal.
Oh, God.
Well, to be fair, it still makes more sense than the horn in Quest for Camelot.
Yeah. Excalibur has been stolen.
How do you know that's what happened? It's just a horn.
Apparently, that specific horn.
They literally have just one horn setting.
Yeah, it's like
How incredibly specific.
yeah, that'd be like if I hey guys, what would you think I meant if I did this?
Well, not much because I couldn't hear much, but also that's a flashlight, Edmund. That's not good as a bludgeoning weapon.
Well,
Yeah.
Let's get a frying pan. That usually works.
well, okay. You'd be surprised too. Torches back in the day were actually pretty heavy and whatnot.
Sturdy.
So
But yeah, to put it simply, the assault was a complete and utter failure.
Sure.
So get out.
Yes.
Sure, I just noticed something.
Yes.
But I'm gonna wait till he's on screen. Caspian's on screen again.
Oh, okay.
Because when I look at Caspian's outfit, it reminds me of someone. Now that I'm actually looking a bit better.
Oh, Eugene.
Oh, there you go. You were thinking the same
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, it's still Disney. Tangle. I think
Seriously.
Tangle was about to be released, actually.
Seriously, just give this actor a goatee, and he would be a very fine choice for a live-action Eugene. Actually.
Maybe for an adult Prince Caspian for one of the later stories, they could have.
guys, maybe this will be a world in Kingdom Hearts now that it's back to Disney's loving embrace.
Okay, I could see that.
I can see it happen. Actually.
I mean, they managed to make a world for how it was worried about Tron Legacy, so why not?
Yeah. And like Tron
Wait,
Legacy.
what year did that game come out that first time?
3D, it was Dream Drop Distance for the
Whoa,
3DS.
no, T. Actually, Tron. Oh well, okay. Technically, they had
Specifically Legacy, Jova,
Oh,
not just Tron in general.
Two was for the first Tron movie. 3D was for Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
It even had Olivia Wilde's character and everything.
Hmm. Did it get
Like I said,
back to
mostly because how 3D was, how it was constructed for an inferior hardware. The world of Tron Legacy feels so.
The only one from the movie that came back was God, what's his name again? The
The returning what?
a returning protagonist.
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen
Sorry.
Jeff Bridges' character?
There you go. That's it. Jeff Bridges. I forgot. I was totally blanking out on his name for some reason. Jeff Bridges did come back but he was the only actor who reprised his role in that game. Yes.
I mean, what's Bruce Box like now? You know, he was actually Tron.
That's the thing. There's Tron doesn't have any actual lines in Kingdom Hearts 3D, so it wasn't necessary to bring him in. He did. He was in 2, if it helps you. Kingdom Hearts 2.
Mm-hmm. The only actor we couldn't get back was not the Minotaur. The actor we couldn't bring back was the one of the Sark and the Master Control Program. So
Wow,
they had
you dick!
Again, massive racist. So yeah, Edmund, how are you gonna get out of this one?
Could be easier said than done.
One of the issues is that the movie doesn't really do very much of a good job in characterizing Prince Caspian. He's just kind of, generic, typical Prince protagonist character. Like, not much is really given to him to give him much of a personality of his own.
Shoot. And if they remain trapped, they're essentially as good as dead. So they need to get out now.
Time to retreat.
I swear.
I will teach you.
How many of these scenes are taking place at night?
It helps with masking some of the CGI.
Yes. They're taking the Patty Jenkins approach when it comes to this action sequence.
Well, Hollywood in general loves to do that. I mean, okay, there was one before, but I can tell that if there are others, other day-to-night shot, at least they're masked better than in other cases where you see them. Well, now, Edmund.
Oh, I thought suddenly Edmund turned into a
No,
bird.
it always is like that. Character jumps off a cliff, the others stares in bewilderment, and instead it's revealed that we had like a flying vehicle of sorts.
Can we have one of those movies where he tries that, but he ends up falling onto the ground?
Isn't that what happened with that movie that you mentioned, where Samuel Jackson and Lover are led to be? Yeah, we're led to be believed the main character, but they die.
Yeah.
Alright, let me show you how it's done. So not happy to just have shot him once, they decide to shoot the poor Minotaur multiple times.
Well, I mean,
I've
it's
been in police
simple.
crime dramas. I know how to fire one of these.
It's like, take out the guy who's helping everyone escape.
Damn.
That could have gone better.
Well, at least they're saying, no, you go, we'll
hold.
Yeah. Oh no, not who are you again?
Yeah, you still have to run. I smell a traitor shot.
Ugh, barely made it. In the name of Aslan, may he hopefully show up.
I know all the reasons because of last battle, but it's still a dick move that Aslan led so many, people of his land to die pointlessly like this.
Yeah, technically this does get explained in last battle, but...
And mind you, this is technically something that the movie adds, but, in terms of how the story pans out, in general.
True, yeah. So I guess, to be fair, this isn't so much on C.S. Lewis so much as...
No, okay, to be fair, even in the original story, a lot of creatures still pointlessly die by the hands of the Talmarines.
Wait. 1 second it was night, and now it's day.
Well,
because they arrived, the castle was distant. They have arrived, during the day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, didn't work, and now your forces are basically decimated.
But hey,
all to free Viscount Dumbledore.
Everyone died.
Everyone died. Hey,
Basically,
at least we accomplished something. We tied up a cat.
Yeah.
Basically, Lucy, what happened was fucking pointless.
Whoa, dude.
Chill the fuck out.
Hey, look. We didn't intentionally abandon Narnia, okay? We just accidentally stepped through a wardrobe.
Oh boy, in addition to this movie being boring, we've got that oh so wonderful trope of main characters bickering because lol.
Thankfully, it doesn't last long.
Also, don't worry, Lily still has the potion from the first movie, which can heal
the
wounds.
heal everything potion. Let's just say, well, that part of the Narnian forces have, a contingency plan.
What, just leave?
No, that wouldn't work, Dibs.
I mean, they've done it already.
Come on, Peter Dinklage, you have to live, damn it!
You have to leave to arrive in Game of Thrones.
And then you'll be ruined in that by the 7th season, but still...
At least you will survive till the end, I guess.
Yeah. Only to lose the throne to a freaking wheelchair-bound boy who doesn't even matter that much into the plot!
Plus you'll have to, plus you'll have to become a mad scientist in the X-Men films.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you're originally a black man.
Also, something tiptoes.
Yikes. Well, I gotta say, Dwibs, do you think Gary Oldman could play a convincing dwarf?
No.
It's a can of worms, Dibs. You don't want to go there.
Because apparently Tiptoes thought, yeah, totally. He's the guy.
Okay. God has given me the death to also touch it or something like that.
That's not intimidating.
To be fair, Dweebs, is it
That's
less...
something people do when they try to squish a bug.
Okay, to be fair, Dweebs, is King Miraz less or more intimidating than Charlotte Copley in the first Maleficent movie?
Oh, God.
As King Stefan.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. He was more crazy in that, to be honest.
True, but if I recall correctly, you don't particularly take seriously Charlotte Copley's acting in general.
Oh, no. Charlotte Copley as an actor is fine. Yeah, I've seen Hardcore Henry, for example. He's got a lot of range. He was just terrible in Maleficent.
And,
Okay.
Oh.
Also, old boy.
and he's incredibly over the top in Neil Blomkamp's films.
Okay.
Although that's the thing though, Paige. He was like the only thing I kind of enjoyed in Elysium.
Okay, if you remember, the dwarves used to be part of the forces of the White Witch. And despite generation being passed, some of them might still remember, you know,
The good old
who
days.
we were, who were alleged with. So if the four kings of old did not
Well,
work,
but they're still
something
loyal
else
to her.
will.
Is it really a power greater considering that power technically fell towards this age?
This
of
is
power?
once again another parallel, the temptation of the purity of, in this case, Prince Caspian. A bit similar to what Edmund went through in the first movie, but in this time in a more subtle way, literally tempting your beliefs. It's the bear.
Frank
Let me see.
Welker, is that you?
But I'm gonna check if it's created who voices him.
He sounds like Black Doom.
Ah.
To Sean Train. What? Oh, is he wishing for someone to die?
Yes, remember, the goal is to eliminate King Miraz. Again, despite everything, the goals of these characters are relatively dark. They don't just say, oh, we just need to dethrone him or something. No, kill him.
This isn't ominous at all.
Yeah, seriously, Caspian, this is the moment where you should start questioning your life decisions.
Listen, what did Andrew
Brrr.
Adamson do after this film? Let me see.
Something's
Ice
getting
magic.
cold here. I smell a cameo.
Yes, not just any cameo.
There she is, Tilda Swinton, back as the White Witch.
Remind me, was this in the book as well?
If I recall correctly, yes, not in a complete direct way. As in Prince Caspian is tempted to resurrect her for their powers, but the thing doesn't go through.
A Christopher Marcus, Steve McFeely written script with Tilda Swinton in it.
Are you,
remember- Well, actually, no, yeah. The Ancient One was in Endgame, so yeah, it works.
Basically,
Andrew Adamson, before the Narnia series, he was a director and writer of Shrek.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck did he go from that to this?
I mean,
This also explains a lot while Rippy Cheap is portrayed a bit more like
Well,
the
that's the
Puss in
thing.
Boots of Shrek too.
Well, that's the thing, that as I've touched before, I don't even care much for Shrek to begin with anyway, so this
Well,
just doesn't-
okay.
lines wrap it up for me, personally.
True, yeah. But for the most part, this can easily be considered a step down from Shrek. That being said,
Sure.
I wouldn't call this movie terrible, though, Dwibs.
No,
He was
I wouldn't-
also
like I said,
he was also a visual effects supervisor for a few films of Joel Schumacher's, but more interestingly, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
no, I agree. Like, this is Again, I think about this movie basically the same thing that I did for the first one. It's just a mediocre fantasy film.
Yeah, I
To me-
missed
to me.
you. I missed trying to kill you, Peter. You can trust me.
Oh, what about the fact that Aslan literally mauled your face?
Here, I will practice you in the magics of the dark arts. Oh wait,
Yeah, wrong movie, sweetie.
Really, Peter? Yeah, no.
Allow me to break the ice.
But who was it that broke the ice?
Edmund, the
Yeah.
iron, for extra irony. Again,
Okay.
I like I said, I think Edmund is the sibling that gets the more character development because it's all about him redeeming from his past.
Like, yeah. As you guys may recall, Edmund was the sibling that was brought to temptation by the witch
Symbolism.
in Gecko. So he's been through this stuff, and he's like, yeah, no, we're not doing that again. Because, trust me, for as bad as Miraz is, the White Witch is 10 times worse. and she
So
would
it's
just-
not really worth to bring her back.
Oh, also, yes, I guess this made trouble any...
We couldn't afford Tilda Swinton for that long.
Also, Tio, I almost forgot, there was a romance up on this, but apparently now it's off because
Who
she's
cares?
disappointed in him. Like,
Who
that's
the hell cares?
That's the thing, Tio. It feels like even the movie itself didn't care because only now it brought it back with Susan showing a disapproving look towards Caspian.
That's also another sad thing. Despite contributing greatly to the fight scenes, Susan doesn't have to do much in this movie, even in the story in general. If I recall correctly, in the book it was like even worse. She was even kept away from the fight scenes because Lewis was one of those authors that, oh no, woman cannot fight.
You see, my mother was a black dwarf. She didn't make as much as the Caucasian dwarfs did.
Nah, don't worry, Caspian, there's still an hour left.
Oh my god, there's an hour left of this.
We still need the big fight scene, Lives.
Ugh.
I believe in you, Prince Caspian.
Yeah, I believe in you to give me a takeaway.
If you
Also believe in you, Santa Christ.
If you believe in Prince Caspian, kids,
Hey.
clap your hands right now.
Hey, yeah, that's the thing, Tio. Santa Claus technically exists in the world of Narnia.
Yep.
Yes.
Where's he been?
And
I don't know.
And if we go by the South Park parody, so does Luke Skywalker.
That's the thing, though. Santa Claus gave these kids freaking weapons, like...
Okay, I don't remember the details, but I legitimately do wonder if it was actually Aslan in disguise at that point.
It's never said that it was Aslan at some point, although who knows, maybe going off of the last battle it technically
It's been actually a
was
while
Aslan.
since I read the books, I have to admit.
Same.
Yeah, we still need to deal with the army.
What to do.
Also, again, subtlety for these masks. Again, no, it's more, again, another parallel to the Conquistadors, Jova.
Yeah.
Similar to the helmet. Again, still technically an aesthetic choice.
So there's one thing I have to ask. For as much as they're powerful, they're still humans. How the heck did they go up against a lot of the different species of Narnia, which can be pretty freaking powerful and, well, run them down? Like,
Don't you see, Jova? They have technology!
I mean, so did the
Yeah, I don't get it
Narnians, as we
either.
saw in Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe.
It's not even that, Jova. They might be super armored or some shit, but a Minotaur slapping you in the face will still hurt.
Not only that, but we're going to see that all it took was a certain
was also-
plot point, and they
okay,
would have been
if I-
wiped out.
If I recall correctly, it was also for the fact that the factions were still, like, disorganized, especially after the departure of the Four Kings, as in the siblings. So they were kind of like being too by surprise.
So the plan is this: face them head on while sending Lily into the dark forest to well,
Fine
sorry.
Aslan or some shit.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I've been saying her name wrong. It's actually Lucy. Queen Lucy in to go find Aslan.
Hmm? Yes, Caspian, do we have a point?
You may not.
But
So, play on those concepts.
What is that?
you'll see.
What the fuck are we doing?
Taking a stroll.
You're one to talk.
So yeah, establish kind of like in the old days, the best champion of each army fighting in 1v1 combat. The winner makes the entire army winning.
We have a way this works.
Okay, I wouldn't be too surprised if some lines were actually improved by Sergio and the others, because again, Pier Francesco Favino acted as a consultant between the director and the other foreign actors. So I get the idea the directors just gave a general direction on what they're supposed to say, especially for the not pure English speaking ones, and they just went through there.
So he does raise a good question, though. Why would I risk this all in the single combat?
Ooh. Yeah, no. Miraz is textbook villain, which means that he's also very prideful and will never try to, have something tarnish his honor, like any good authoritarian.
Which works in our advantage. Well, considering how his brother
Can you
did...
believe it? He actually bought it, the dumbass.
But you know what? To be fair, his brother did literally manage to survive combat with the White Witch, which, yeah, was partially thanks to Aslan, but still, he lasted against her pretty strong.
Technically speaking, should have decades of experience now.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we're forgetting. The fact that these characters, the Force Evening, actually did grow up in the meantime and now they're reverted. Again, the book barely touches anything, particularly to the younger of the siblings, which can lead to disturbing implications.
Like, technically, they apparently had kids while they were kings and queens and whatnot. Like, and now they have to have puberty over again. Christ almighty.
Oh, let me guess. The evil king is gonna try and cheat in some way.
No,
you'll have to wait and see.
we're not in season 4 of Korra. Okay, remind me again, Jova, because I forgot a bit. Did Amon try to cheat during his duel with the Korra in season 1?
Wait, Amon? Well, okay, here's the thing. Korra challenged him.
No. Before, sorry, when they actually do confront properly. Remember, when Korra, casted their challenge, it was more of a surprise attack.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Amon technically never actually promised it would be one-on-one, so Yeah, well, the obvious thing happened. He basically had her get absolutely taken down by superior numbers, so he could then threaten her with taking her bending away and whatnot.
Again, despite everything, I really love the costume designs of this movie, and the King
Yeah.
Miraz official battle armor makes no exception.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, of course, the armor from the previous movie is back too. That's neat.
Like, the look of the movie and the music aren't really, or even the acting rather, aren't really the problems I have here at all. It's just I don't care about the story.
Me neither. Oh yeah, I was talking about what movies this was competing against. There was one tiny little movie I forgot to mention.
What?
Iron Man.
Oops.
Ooh, yeah.
Ow!
I get the idea why
Wait.
this didn't do as much in the box office.
You want to know the irony, though? That was back when Disney did not own the MCU.
So Paramount was actually the underdog.
Again,
I didn't quite oh, sorry.
one has to wonder, what would the MCU have been like if they had just continued with it being a joint effort between Paramount and Universal?
You already did ask this question, and I think we already answered. It's still technically a different direction. Feige will probably still be at the helm in some capacity, but it will just be constructing it probably a different way. But go ahead, Shiro.
Because, like, the first movie was pretty successful, right? So when you listed off the other two movies it was competing with, I was kind of thinking, wait, what happened? Because it's not like this series was burnt out across multiple movies. This was just the second movie, and then Iron Man. And
The major problem
there it
of
is.
the major problem of this also, Shiro, was the inflated budget. Similar a problem that we noted with stuff like Battleship. If the budget was costing 100 million less, technically, this would have been technically a huge success. But sadly, because of how overinflated it was, it could not be.
I wonder what
And I get the idea that
overinflated
Disney
it.
still had that expectation nonetheless.
Oh yeah, apparently this isn't the first time Warwick Davis has been in something Narnia related. Back in the 80s, he was Repeat Cheap in the BBC adaptation of
Yes.
this.
Huh.
Yeah, one of the more popular adaptations of the Narnia was the BBC series.
Pew!
Damn, she's good.
Well, like you said, she's technically had years of experience.
Oof. Well, what now? Oh, there it is, the dashing Prince Caspian to the rescue.
Now,
Oh,
Yeah, speaking of Susan,
I'm getting
speaking-
the diabetes just by looking at this.
Speaking of Susan taking a more actiony role in this film, apparently that caused a bit of a divide in terms of opinion. I'll read the TV Tropes quote directly. There's also Susan becoming an action girl. In the book, her adult self is described as not liking fighting like an ordinary grown-up lady, which is why she was named Queen Susan the Gentle. On the other hand, both Anna Popplewell, the actress who played her, and Andrew Adamson said if she was going to stay in the kitchen, she should have been given a slab of bread and some butter, not a bow and arrow.
Yeah, like I said, I personally prefer this direction.
Well, that's a comment and a half.
The character is much more action-based, but she's not, obnoxious about it.
Yeah.
Okay, if I recall correctly, help me again on this, Joe. If I recall correctly, the duel goes slightly different in the book version, in a sense that Miraz does get defeated, but it takes a bit. Instead, here, despite struggling a bit, it's pretty much one-sided.
well, okay, not entirely really from the movie, but I'll just let you wait and see. But yeah, basically, both of them have been injured, so they're going to take a bit of a spike.
Piece of shit.
Basically, the order is to shoot Peter with an arrow if things look like
And
they're
blame the
getting old.
Narnians for it.
Have those Italian actors been in anything else English language related?
Pierfrancesco Favino was in World War Z, apparently, in that lab where Peter Capaldi is also. So
Huh.
there is that.
Just keep smiling, Peter. Smile
Smile
through
and
the
wave,
smile through the pain, Peter. Smile
like any
through
good
the pain.
spokesperson.
He's technically older than you all.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And again, the grown-ass King Miraz getting his ass kicked by a teenager.
which is again technically old enough to be
Older than
his
him.
great-great-grandfather, but yeah, as far as they know and see, he's but a boy. Oh boy, Peter, that's that
That's
is
a spicy declaration.
yeah.
Yeah, just shut up. Alright. Ding, ding, ding.
Round
two.
two.
No helmet. It makes it easier for decapitation. No helmet either. Why not? I can see a bit the thought process. The helmet, despite giving protection, potentially,
Makes it
impedes a bit your
harder.
breath. Yeah, it also impedes a bit your breath, aside from impairing your vision. Again, despite it being in a role that's clearly not his own, Castellito still manages to get through it. Again, this guy is more used to do police kind of drama, so more a guy with a gun than anything. So I don't know who was the actual coordinator of the choreography for the fight scenes, but, well, good enough job for me. Again, pretty much one-sided.
Oh
Did we need a Zack Snyder slow-mo?
yeah. I can do this all day. Wait a minute.
So is this the big battle then? Oh no, wait.
Not yet. The
Oh,
duel is
snap.
almost over, actually.
I wouldn't say it's entirely one-sided because each side does get their licks in here and
True,
there.
but you can still see that Peter is clearly in the upper advantage. Again, being young, he's more agile, more strong, and takes advantage of a weak point. Blood, 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 blood.
That look he gives, it's like you were supposed to
Ooh.
kill him. That looked like it hurt.
Also, there's no blood on the sword. Again, despite its darker tones, it's still,
That's the
Disney
thing.
movie for kids.
That's the thing, Tio. There was blood in the first movie. Like, heck,
I don't get it either.
Peter cleaning his sword was a plot point.
And it's the thing, later on we will see actual decapitation on screen, but it's just that,
Hey,
again, there's some
Caspian.
minor arbitrary. Yeah, wanna give it a go? Why not?
It's all yours for the taking.
Alright, let's do again the procedure. My name is Caspian. You killed your father. Prepare to die.
And
In the
now,
entire movie for this.
and now I know for sure that you killed my dad.
He's not gonna do it, is he?
Oh, just shut up. No, I can't.
I would become just like you.
Except you wouldn't.
Not to mention the fact that you killed people previously anyway. So that kind of plot point is moot.
Not much of one anyway.
So now you can pretty much be defeated and live with the shame of it. In front of the lords and everything. Definitely a fate worse than death.
So he just got emasculated instead. That's his
Pretty much.
punishment?
Movie's
Okay.
over, right?
Let's go for a beer.
Of course, he's not going to be happy because he specifically instructed his underlings to, shoot Peter if it looked like things were going bad.
Yeah, let's just say, like I said, dagger in your back. In this case, a pointy arrow. Oh, guys, look at that! It seems like the Narnias have cheated. Yeah, that's King Miraz done, by the way.
Here's the thing about Talmarine lords. They take opportunity whenever they can.
And there you go. That was your decapitation.
Oh, but we didn't get to see it.
Well,
Yeah.
shucks.
Weirdly enough.
If Touchstone Pictures released this movie, then they'd probably do that.
Well, that's the
Probably.
weird thing, though. I recall things being way more graphic in the first movie, so...
I guess they did tone it down a bit. I don't know.
Oh.
But that's the thing, though. This film's meant to be darker than the first film.
All right, so we can officially start with the actual battle.
But I think you were going to say final thoughts.
Final battle. Well, the final boss will arrive.
This would be
after
one
that,
hell of a
really.
place to end the movie.
Yeah. It's like, you don't get to see the final battle.
So yeah, Pier
Well, we
Francesco
don't. The movie wasn't
now
made.
Pier Francesco Pavino and the Mexican actor are now basically the main bad guys. Again, Damian Alcazar. From what I heard, he's really popular in Mexico. So
Now, I'll
Again.
admit, I kind of do get what they were going with Miraz's death. The guy had a much larger-than-life exterior to him, but in reality, he didn't realize how his own barbaric tendencies would,
turned
lead to-
against him essentially.
leading to him essentially just being a casualty and another means to an end, just like he
It-
treated everyone else.
It's also another parallel to the fact that this faction, despite trying to be the new order and everything, it's more disorganized and will take opportunity to backstab each other or something.
I know they outnumber us, but charge!
I mean, that's all they can do at this point.
Hey Pete, just like old times.
Oh, what are you counting for?
Maybe that was the director counting down them holding the shot until he said cut.
Yes, where were they charging to?
Well, this destroying the own inner sanctum,
Yes, but that
which will
inner
in turn
sanctum-
essentially make the earth crumble, which count as a kind of a trap.
Ha! We just Dark Knight Rised you to death. Oh!
Now we're 300ing everything.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's pretty much clear that Disney wanted to replicate the scope of big battles of Lord of the Rings, but it's clearly not the same thing. How did you had that?
It just works like that. Pretty convenient, eh?
I guess.
Da, 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 da.
No, Java, don't look to your left.
Don't mess with the badger.
Jesus.
Dang. Sword to the face.
Again, don't
And
fuck
an
with Reapy
insult,
Chip.
question mark.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's like a fuck ton of rest of army to defeat.
Oh, snap.
See, Dreams, this is why the Eagles should have not fly the people to Mordor. Because Mordor did have ballistas.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing though, this isn't Lord of the Rings, it's Narnia, so the logic's different.
No, like I said, Mordor did add those kind of siege weapons they showed also in the first movie.
Yeah.
The humanity.
The bloodshed.
But not everyone here is human.
It's a generic term.
Back to the how.
Oh, wait.
Oh, sure, I got it.
Yes.
We could do what they say in the Japanese version of the Pokemon first movie. They're living beings. They're living beings.
Narnians
There
are
we
not
go.
meant to fight. Not like this.
No!
That's English exclusive.
That's the thing, Teo. Technically, in the Japanese, they technically still do the no fighting message. It's just that the way they phrase it is so awkward. They're living beings. Now I know that Pokemon are also living beings.
No shit.
No shit, Sherlock.
Alright,
breathe
just like
in,
old
they sleep.
times.
You know?
This will be our last stand. And if he doesn't make it in time, screw you, Aslan!
It's like Conan the Barbarian. He asks the prayer to Crom, and he's like, "And if you do not listen, then to hell with you."
Yeah, Lucy, you're still writing. Man, a lot has happened. There you
there
are,
it is.
asshole!
Took your sweetest time.
Rude.
Yeah, what the hell?
Also, that
Oh,
camera.
I guess he was roaring at him, but still, though. Smart mook.
That's right, you tell him. Also, another note, Aslan is slightly bigger than in the previous movie, and it's kind of a plot point, but we'll mention that in the final thoughts too.
Aww. Why did you hide? You made my other siblings think I was crazy.
And why do you look better than a certain 2019 movie that I could mention?
Again, 11 years after this.
Why do you have more expression than that movie?
More
How
feeling.
depressing.
Like, seriously, if there's one thing I'll always give these movies, the effects of Aslan are freaking top-notch. And especially given how earlier these movies were made. Technically
No.
telling the truth because C.S. Lewis may not have known where the story was going, or lying out of his
Aslan
ass.
was too
You
OP, he needed to
decide.
nerf. Again, it's pretty much clear that the reason why Aslan is not, for the most part in the story, at least originally, without the explanation that we know, was because he really would have just, Deus Ex Machina everything, which is what he's about to do.
Or hell, maybe he was taking a cat nap.
After a CAT scan.
Well, being dead took a lot out of him, so he needed his beauty sleep.
Of course, what a drama queen. So it seems that everything was lost when... I can't even say the CGI animators had a heart attack because they have to work in the favor of Narnia.
But wait. Think about it. Do you really want to continue this tradition?
Whoop. Okay, let me tell. Something that the movie doesn't have, and it's for the better, to be honest, is that Aslan actually takes his sweetest time to arrive to the battlefield. In the meantime, he does some weird shit, like going through the rest of the Talmarine kingdom and being a gigantic bully because he destroys property, tells off of bad teachers, and takes away farm animals for his cause. It's so bizarre, and then decides to arrive to help on the battlefield. So instead here we just condense it on, oh no, he arrives and lets the spirit of the nature help the Narnians.
But Dotticitio, the second in command, had a moment of realization and he didn't choose to kill Caspian.
Which costed him.
But the guy who abandoned us. Seriously, this is almost as silly as that full Frodo bit in the Lord of the Rings, even though Sam's been doing most of the work.
Well, the characters did not know back then.
Not just that, based on what I've heard, apparently the characterization of Frodo in the Jackson trilogy is a bit iffy when you compare it to the book.
It is, actually.
Yeah, Frodo only has one legitimately cool moment in the whole trilogy.
Oh, snap, boys! We're being stopped
It's
by a
one
little girl.
Men, we can't just,
Frodo, blast it into the fire! Destroy it!
No.
What the fuck are you doing? The charge!
But it's a little girl with a knife! I'm scared of those! Oh,
Alright,
she's
the
got a
lion might be a
lion.
problem too.
Oh, she brought a cat.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit.
I love how much they hesitated though. For a moment there, they were frozen ass in fear of a little girl with her knife.
Was it more like we don't want to kill a small child, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. That would be an amazing source of morality for them all of a sudden. But what says now something is going to be summoned by Aslan's roar. No, seriously, Aslan's roar is about to save the goddamn day.
Yeah,
it's Lion Guard.
In the previous movie, at least he bothered to actually mold the face of the White Witch. No, in this he just lets the elements do his work.
But don't you see, Tio, he may or may not have created that with his roar, or summoned it, or whatever. But yeah, kid you not, this is pretty much what wins them the war. Yes, let's jump into the water away from the water elemental. Wait a minute, what?
With our heavy armors to boot.
I might be sure. I still need to get back to showing more of that show.
Must we?
Oh,
Well,
it's
actually, we're going to comment on it eventually.
I'll wait for that.
Remember, Shiro, the only reason you got away from it this time is because Jove and Theo allowed me to pick Anne of Green Gables. Otherwise, we would be commenting on it right now. So...
Well, I'll wait till we get to that then.
I take it you didn't like the bits you saw.
It sucks.
Jova, the Scar song, that alone pretty much, let's face it, at that point it's just no
Oh,
saving that
don't
show.
tell me you showed Troy that, did you?
Yes, I did.
He showed me the pilot and also a couple of episodes, and the thing is, Jova, only a couple of days after he showed me the pilot, we went to a family friend's house, and guess what they decided to put on as white noise for the children?
Lion Guard.
The pilot again! Yay!
Hooray!
Is the pilot bad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jova, insert fanfic where they turn their own OG Kion character, basically Lion G's. I swear to you, I'm not even making this up. He literally gets a magical roll that allows him to lift rocks and giant cliffs. I am not even kidding you right now. He's literally Lion Jesus.
So yeah, the day is literally won thanks to Aslan literally Deus Ex Machinaing.
Again, he roared and
What?
boom.
Well, isn't he like a god or something?
Well, okay.
He-
To be
that's
fair,
the thing that again reinforces the fact that he, for the whole bullshit of test of faith and stuff, allowed the rest of his subject to be killed and tortured and be enslaved by the Talmarinians for so much time.
mind you, the first book establishes that Aslan flipping created this entire world. Mind you, this is while he was singing/roaring.
This
Essentially,
is not a god, this is the Demiurge. Oh
essentially,
no, repeat cheap.
This is truly the most tragic part of the movie.
It is, shut up.
Is that the squirrel?
no, it's the mouse Dwibs.
It's the Eddies or the mouse.
Dwebs, I think you might want to consider going to the ophthalmologist because you're mistaking a squirrel for a mouse. I think that's
That's a rodent, that's the same thing.
It's just from afar it looked a bit like a squirrel.
Nobody's ever really gone.
Is he in the sequel?
okay. Well, actually, never mind. I'll wait a bit.
I think he might
in the
be.
sequel? Let me check the cast list.
Oh, snap his tail.
What's the character's name again? Sorry.
Rippy cheap. Sorry, dude, your tail's lost.
Well, Aslan can fix that, potentially.
I mean, at least you're alive.
Apparently, no.
The character or the cast member?
Either.
The character.
I could
And
have
by extension, the cast member.
Actually, no. I take that back. Rippy Sheep is in the next movie, but he's not voiced by Eddie Izzard.
I thought
Yeah.
so. I thought so because I recalled seeing him in the marketing.
Yeah, he actually is in the next movie, but not with the same person.
He's instead voiced by Simon Pegg.
Fair enough.
Does he, you know...
He still kicks ass. Yes,
Hey!
new tail. It's adorable.
So what exactly are the last 20 minutes of this movie then?
You'll see, because we have to get the kingdom back into sorts now, don't we?
There's also going back home if they do, and you know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things to tell. Also, Aslan, while you were away, your political adversaries almost resurrected your nemesis, yeah. Remember, Aslan died for your sins.
Wow, the Talmarinians seem pretty okay with the fact that the Narnians won.
Well, that's mostly because also they still have Prince Caspian as the legitimate king, but Aslan will actually give them a choice. Mostly because it's connected to the backstory of the Talmarinians.
How many of them are actually just celebrating in fear, though?
That is potentially a good question.
Everyone celebrate and hail the
That's technically
conquering heroes.
that's also technically one of the downsides of the franchise as a whole, and I mean also the books. The fact that the morality is strictly black and white. Only the later stories provide a bit more of gray area, but it's not touched much upon. It's fine for some elements, like say providing interesting villains, but when it presents, more simple resolution to conflicts. Oh my god, stop it, please.
Why?
Well, Teo, he needs someone to be a queen, I guess. So
Yes.
and she's the only one here eligible. So
Do we really have to? Yeah, thank you. That was a great scene.
brilliant. So you're about to put this subplot in, except you don't even do anything with it.
There you go. Aslan is offering an ultimatum. Since the Talmarians were technically, ironically enough, immigrants overall, humans who accidentally fell into Narnia, Aslan is giving them a choice. If you can decide to stay and obey the laws of of King Caspian and Aslan, or you can go back to the quote-unquote real world through a portal that we'll create now. Just ignore the angry guy with a mustache that you might find.
Well,
Don't worry,
actually,
he's benign.
wait. Well, I think at this point World War II was over with in the human world.
I think it was only like 1 year after the events of.
Well, okay. Well, okay, the fact that they're back in London, I feel like that means that the war was over, because remember, they were originally shipped off to London because...
1 year has passed. After the events of Lion Witch and the Wardrobe.
Also, too, look at that. The second in command now is
Still
redeemed.
survived.
And now he'll leave with the now widow of Miraz.
It's also interesting because Pier Francesco Favino mostly plays a more benevolent role, so it makes a bit more sense to have him as a character who starts as a villain
so
but
here's
then
what
gets
you
redeemed.
do. Walk through this tree's crotch and you can return home.
Ew, a tree China, do we really have to?
Yes.
Is that their motivation for not walking through it?
I guess
Stay
it's...
here and you'll have to walk on the crotch tree over there.
It's just a tree. God.
Wait a minute. How do we know this tree even leads back to where they go?
You can trust the talking line.
Yeah, exactly. What he said. What he said.
Oh boy, here we go.
This is actually an important plot point.
What, the mice get killed?
No. The 4 siblings have to return, too.
Yeah, I'll admit, I'm kinda iffy on this, but supposedly the idea is like, well, as they're growing up, their time has come and passed. So,
yeah. You're not
Specifically,
needed here anymore, except for the next movie.
Oh, actually, no. The 2 older siblings cannot return, but the 2 younger can, which is why they do show up in Words of the Dawn Treasure.
Which is kind of weird, given what we learned in last
really
battle,
is.
but we'll
Really?
get...
We're doing the Power Rangers Turbo thing now, where you leave because you reach a certain age.
And they lead to a peace conference.
Actually, James, I thought you were going to say it's more like the Peter Pan thing, but yeah, it is like Power Rangers in that.
The Turbo thing was actually worse because it was almost all the cast en masse that left in that one.
Oh, but what are you talking about, Dwibs? It was totally great to have a little boy as a Blue Ranger.
Again, for the record, this is also what happens in the book, and I don't understand that either. Even before the revelations of Last Battle,
It's essentially...
it just feels so arbitrarily wrong, especially and dickish towards these people who actually fought tooth and nail to save this fucking place.
It's essentially a contrived reason to get the 4 kids back through, and again, it feels so Peter Pan-esque, like, oh, I guess the older you get, the less likely it is that you can come back here or something. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean... I don't really get it either. I mean, okay, no, remind me, Tio. Their parents were dead, weren't they? Oh
I
wait,
think so.
Oh wait. Actually, their mother was alive.
No, they were part similar to what happens also in Bad Knocks and Broomsticks. They were part of the children who were sent outside in the countryside, outside of the big cities, to save themselves from the bombing missions of the Nazis.
Oh yes. I get that, but wasn't there?
Oh, okay then.
Next scene,
That
please.
happened anyway, but like, wasn't that? Well, okay, at least in the movie, their mother was alive with them during the bombing scene, essentially.
I think so. Yeah.
So, that is one thing that always raised my question, though. Like, were they just fine with leaving their parents potentially
It's one of
back
the
in
things
the
that the
real
book
world?
never explain. Again, the book treats elements like them growing up and then becoming younger again, so lightly.
Not
when you
only
get down to it.
Not only that, but this kind of implies that literally the only reason they're going back home is because they want to prove a
Also,
point.
This
Song
vocal
doesn't
thing.
fit.
No, at all. Let me check what specifically it is.
Why?
Generic song. That's the title.
This is supposed to be in the credits.
Like, why are we doing this here, movie?
The second half of the credits.
Welcome to platform 9 3/4.
Again, this is where they left.
Oh, so this is fan fiction within the Harry Potter universe, I see.
Let's see where I am. They did it at King's Cross, not Strand.
We'll pretend it's King's Cross.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Well, Dwibs, pretend we're at Universal
Don't
Studios.
you have any imagination, Dwibs?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair to him, King's Cross actually looks very different to this station.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's completely right,
Yeah,
but this might
no
be
imagination in the land can make that different.
this might be Regina Spektor with the song "The Call."
It'd be like trying to pretend. It'd be like trying to pretend the countryside is a city.
Either that or it's Switchfoot song "This Is Home."
Next up, 20th Century Fox.
Also, apparently, Imogen Heap, who did a song in the first film, wrote a new
Oh,
song,
what-
but
what
Harry
happened
Gregson
to
Williams
the-
considered too dark.
Wait, what happened? Did the underground train run Aslan over or something?
Okay,
And
you
so
know what?
Aslan is dead.
Okay,
know
I
what?
don't rem-
God.
I don't remember if there's a post-credit scene, but let's start our final thoughts. So why not?
Can I go first?
Slaves.
Well, that was boring.
Compared to the first movie, if you have any memories of it, is it better, worse, on the same level?
Well, this feels worse on account that it's longer. B, it doesn't do anything with that bigger length. And C, nothing happens for like half the movie.
Actually, I wonder if this film is actually shorter than the first film. It just feels longer because, well, as you mentioned, the first half.
Yeah, seriously, you could cut almost all the first half of the movie, and it would be miles better. No wonder no one turned up to see this film. They overheard how pointless half of it was, and they didn't bother showing up. And they told everyone else not to bother seeing it either. I mean, the acting's fine. Okay, the visual effects are pretty good, and they do hold up well for a 2008 movie. Well, then again, I think that has to do mostly with the inflated budget.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just about it. This film was just a complete slog to get through, and I thought the happening went on forever.
It did, but I see where you're coming from with this one.
It's, I mean, if it's not just boring stuff, it's just every adventure film cliche in the book. Random good guy characters decide to start bickering for no reason. We've got the big hero left, so he's a big fuddy duddy. Ugh, I'm sorry, I don't like this film at all. If anything, I'm looking forward to Voyage of the Dawn Treader, mostly because to see how they could possibly try and carry on from this, and also
The short answer is they couldn't.
and
What do
also
you
to
mean?
see what any
Oh.
changes happened from the transition from Disney to Fox.
Like, remember, Jova, Fox tried one movie, it didn't work, and they stopped it.
Oh yeah, I get what you
Yeah,
mean.
I wonder if at this point Narnia is just a poison chalice for movie series.
It's also, like you said, Liz, I do recommend that video that I mentioned, the Rise and Fall of the Narnia movies, which does explain why adapting this into a set of movies doesn't exactly work as they hoped it would.
I mean, the BBC tried to adapt it as a TV show.
We'll have to see what
That's
Netflix does.
That's the key thing. Yeah. We'll see how Netflix handles it. I'm willing to bet they're doing that as like a competition against Amazon for
Probably.
Lord of the Rings. Soon to be. Imagine Amazon will probably counter that with a Lord of the Rings James Bond crossover.
You're done, Liz?
Yeah, I'm done. I'd rather watch the first film over this.
Shirai.
Pretty much the same as Dwibs. I don't really care all that much. I mean, okay, to be fair, it was a lot more tolerable the second time around because I remember just being very bored of this movie the first time I saw it. And, like I said, the movie looks good, the acting's good, the music I actually think is pretty decent, except for, the random song at the end that doesn't really fit at all.
No.
There was nothing like that in the first movie. Why did they think that was necessary?
Okay, there was the song in the first movie, but like you said, that happened literally at the last scene, and even still, the lyrics didn't even start until like after the actual footage ended. Like the lyrics
yeah,
only
that's what
started.
those kind of songs are supposed to be for. Like it's not just there in the movie itself.
So I guess you would say that this is a step down from the first movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the first movie's okay, but I would watch that again over this. I mean, okay, the animals look a blindside better than another movie. I don't understand how, and I'm pretty sure one of you had more budget. And that's it. This happened. I haven't seen the movie that comes after this, so that'll be interesting to watch. Yeah, that's it for this.
Pedro.
It's a fantasy. It's a very mediocre fantasy film. It takes inspiration from various sources, and it doesn't really manage to really bring anything majorly new to the table. Pretty much it's basic. A lot of it is from Hamlet. It also takes some stuff from Lord of the Rings. But I guess for what it is, it's not like it's doing anything particularly wrong. It's just not doing anything particularly right either. It's just a very average, run-of-the-mill fantasy film for me. It just like it doesn't feel particularly inspired, and the characters are very bland.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not there's not that much for me to really get invested in. I mean, the action is pretty fine, and the FS are great. And the music is okay, but I don't know. Like I feel like this movie is just mediocre. Like it makes it very little of an impression, to me at least. I'm not. I'm pretty. I think it's pretty safe to say why these movies are kind of not as talked about nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They're not very memorable at all. So. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the books are, but the movies definitely are nothing to write home about.
Like I said previously, they might be fine if you're willing to overlook the ham-fisted messages, but there's still also better material in general, regardless of what you think.
And again, there's that ending with the last battle.
Yeah, speaking of which, Joe, do you want to start with that or with your final thoughts?
I think I'll start with my final thoughts and then lead into that.
That'll probably be more appropriate.
Go ahead.
So, my final thoughts with this movie. Well, not gonna lie, it definitely feels like a step down from the original. You say what you will about the original, but the original did truly feel like a well-crafted effort to bring the book to life. And for all intents and purposes, it did that. You could argue it even expanded on some details relatively well here and there. Like Christian symbolism or whatnot, I still do think it's a genuinely good movie. It's not the best, and it's obviously, there have been examples that have been done far better, but it was a good start overall. It had great scale, good music, good characters, good writing, the whole works here and there. Unfortunately, with this movie, they brought back the good music. Okay, I guess character actors would probably be more accurate. And oh yeah, and definitely the effects. The effects are masterful for this movie. Unfortunately, good effects cannot hold up a bad script. Like, look, yes, a lot of this can also be attributed to some issues with the book, but in a book, some of these issues are more applicable or allowed because of the nature of literature as opposed to, like, obviously in a book, sometimes you have to describe more stuff better, so I can sort of get the pacing done in the book better, but I do feel like they should have done it better in the movie. Because, yeah, not gonna lie, it really does feel like not much is happening until the heroes finally meet up with Prince Caspian, which is a bit of a shame. After that, things do start to pick up, but then, of course, they added in that other scene, which then leads to the characters, of course, fighting, and, well, this and that happening, and yada yada yada. Also, adding in that romance between Season and Prince Caspian was just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Did not need it, did not want it. Why was this here? Seriously.
Just to suffer.
That said, though, this movie does still have its good moments. So there are a lot of lines that I do get a kick out of, and I can find myself entertained. Like, the actors are all giving it 110%, and good on them for it. It's just that, again, the script is not that strong. Now, granted, I could easily have seen this movie of being a box office success if, the budget hadn't ballooned, because I wouldn't call this a bad flick. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely a step down, and there was huge rooms for improvement, but I wouldn't call this, like, god-awful or terrible. Like, I do feel like it does still provide the big popcorn action bits here and there. Yeah, the fight choreography is well done. I do agree, though, that where it does let down is that a lot of stuff does fall into the Deus Ex Machina stuff, and in hindsight, Aslan's kind of an asshole for not hanging around that much. But yeah, overall, I'd say it improves on some things from the book, but altogether, this one feels like a step down from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But fittingly so, Aslan is actually a bigger dick than you may imagine. Because, my fellow co-commentators, all viewers here and there, believe it or not, every protagonist in Narnia, except for Susan, is technically dead at this point.
Yep.
So, the last battle. Essentially, it's a culmination. It brings back all the protagonists here and there in some way, shape, or form, with the revelation at the end. And I do mean all the protagonists, like even old Diggory, the protagonist from The Magician's Nephew, aka the old guy. Turns out, most of the protagonists died in a train wreck. And Narnia is sort of like a pseudo afterlife or something, well, with Aslan's country or whatnot, where they can retire to. Meanwhile, Susan denounces Narnia because, well, yeah, everyone she knows and loves is dead, and she has to collect their bodies. So, let me put things into perspective for you. They were dead from the get-go.
How would have Disney even adapted that? That's the bigger question.
Yeah, like, apparently, yeah, all the ventures that have been going on with this and that. Now, granted, to be fair, Narnia is technically still a real land, so the inhabitants of it are fine and everything.
Oh, it's basically the afterlife when you get down to it.
Which is weird, though, so does this mean that people who are coming from Narnia were essentially revenants? Now that they're,
Potentially,
back?
you have to remember that Aslan is literally the Christ figure of the world, so...
And so, essentially, here's the thing. The adventures that the kids had were essentially things to give their lives more sense of meaning, feel like it's all good, that they can properly feel that they fulfilled everything. So, as you can imagine, people had stuff to say about that ending. Like, seriously.
Like I said, I laughed my ass off when I read that originally.
Imagine this. At the end of the book, the protagonists find out that they died in a train crash near the beginning
Nowadays, you
of the
will
book.
read this in fanfiction.
Yeah. Their entire adventure in Narnia occurred after their deaths and whatnot.
If I read this series back in the day, I'd be pissed.
I guess I was too detached to the books for actually be pissed, but I admit I probably would if I actually genuinely cared. What about you,
I think
Jova?
it helps that I'm detached. So.
As for me, I kind of did a double take and shook my head and thought, wait, so did they die like at the beginning of the book? Or did they die before their first venture into Narnia?
Even Last Battle has a story, despite the ending it's weird on its own. Again, the main antagonist is this monkey who's parading around with a donkey skin on top of it, pretending to be Aslan, and people fought for it. It's just weird.
Yeah, like, okay. So, yeah. I don't know what... Okay, actually, I do know what I think about that ending. It's nonsensical. Granted, it does help make sense of any plot holes or whatnot, because, yeah, in a sense, you'd wonder, why did Aslan only really pay attention to these certain characters here and there? I guess it's because technically Narnia was one big show to give them the adventure of their now past lifetimes. And Susan grows up to be jaded by all this, despite the fact that she was supposedly too early, despite the fact that she and Peter were supposedly too old to come back to Narnia. Like, I'm not kidding. Yeah. I know this sounds like a joke, but that is legit how this ends. Like, you really do have to wonder, like, they had to have known this was what they were headed towards in the end, unless they were going to change it to a much happier ending.
We'll have to see what Netflix does, but I doubt we are going to stick completely to the original.
So, wait. Before we get to tier sign thoughts, so Dwib, Shiroi, Pedro.
This has been taken away by the Talmarinians. Sorry, Jova.
Yes, Jova?
What do you think of, that ending of essentially the entire series now with the revelation?
I'm okay. I guess I'm glad I never.
Pedro,
this
imagine if Oliver was told at the end of his journey after defeating Shadar and the White Witch.
It turns out, Oliver, you were dead all along.
You were dead all along. Now you can meet your mom forever.
It's funny because I recently finished watching an isekai where the main character was actually dead, except we knew that from the beginning, so... But again, I'd care a lot more if I had an attachment. I don't have that attachment. It's a stupid ending. I'm not going to be mad about it.
Alright then, so... Oh, Dwibs!
Dwibs is back. You want to ask him?
Dwibs,
Yeah.
What do you think, knowing that the ending to Last Battle, and thus the end of the Chronicles of Narnia series, was essentially that the characters were dead all along, and Narnia was essentially their own private afterlife, and the reason Aslan only showed up from time to time was because he was giving them wish fulfillment and all that jazz and all that.
Well, I mean, is that based off that joke I made earlier about them being dead all along?
Yeah, except Sirius. Well, okay, Susan's still alive, but yeah, she just grows up to be jaded and has to carry their bodies to be buried and whatnot. Lovely stuff.
Well, I mean, that would be quite the twist, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the thing. It is the twist of this whole series, technically. They're dead.
I was kidding.
They were dead. Wait, so did they get hit by the train that was supposed to transport them away from the war or something?
Yeah,
Well, more like they died
it.
in the train wreck.
That's like I said.
Okay.
Remember, you know when Aslan roared as soon as the train left? I got it. The train hit Aslan, so Aslan died, but hitting Aslan was so tough on the train that almost all the passengers inside died, including all of the main Narnia crew except Lucy.
No. It's Susan that survived.
There's a suggestion that you stop making jokes because it seems like writers take your jokes seriously.
But C.S. Lewis died before Dweebs was born, so are you saying he
Hell,
heard him
the
from
writers-
the time?
Time travel.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
don't you see? It turns out that C.S. Lewis is actually going to be Dweebs' descendant who will then travel into the past and write that
Yes.
story idea.
Join us when we get back to James Bond, and I make a joke about how Blofeld was dead the whole time.
Anyway, just to finish off quickly, especially
Tio,
because the
your
movie has
final
been already
thoughts?
long. I understand where all of you are coming from, but I have to be honest, this is still my favorite of the three movies, even despite having the stupid thing about the Muggle power as the main antagonist, which, like he said, it is also way too early for this kind of anthology to be told, which makes more sense considering this is supposed to be book 4 when you get down to it.
I wonder, Tio, is the reason you like this one the best due to the actors involved?
That both the actors and the action scenes. Look, like I said, I evaluated over time Tilda Swinton. She's a great actress and she's gorgeous as fuck. And but I prefer a bit more here how the villains are treated. Like I said, having experience with both Sergio Castellito and Pierfrancesco Favino, with the stuff they did in my country, I guess there is that kind of terrain advantage. But even so, I like also the other actors. You had the one of Prince Caspian, Peter Dinklage, Warwick Davis, and all the others. It's more like what you guys just said. The movie is to stretches out as a story a bit too much. There are a couple of scenes that could have easily just cut away or summed up. Instead, we go here, and the entire thing is solved because Aslan is kind of a dick and has to Deus Ex Machina way at the end. Otherwise, the Narnians would have lost, and Narnians will be ruled by just humans. Hooray! Whatever. I expressed whatever I had to say for the rest. So, folks, no, you're not gonna see me for Voyage of the Dawn Trader. So you others enjoy it because apparently, well, it seems that you probably will. Even though,
Alright, I'm just gonna take Tio over to the train station now.
Sorry guys, I'm going into a tunnel. Or I can't do that joke.
No, wait,
See you for
Tio,
what?
don't! The train you're on will crash and then you'll die and go to Narnia.
That's my secret, Cap. I have always been dead.
You
Inside
can't
at
tell what's
least.
already dead inside.
Yeah. Anyway, for the audience, see you when the others do Voyage of the Dawn Trader.
See ya.
See ya.
So yeah.